And we're live. What's going on, everybody? Hope y'all having a good weekend. Looks like Clint's going to be a little bit late. He just messaged me saying he's going to be about 10 or 15 minutes behind. So that'll give me a chance to get some of these links sent out. And hopefully it'll work like it's supposed to tonight. But we will find out. It's got a notification there. That's good. That's working at least. How these links work. Let's just keep your fingers crossed that everything works like it has been for the last 3 or 4 years for me or not. We'll find out. I don't know what's changed. I certainly haven't done anything any different. So we'll try it in a few groups that I'm admin in first. I can tell it's already going to do like it's been doing. It sure is, man. What is wrong here? Even the font size and everything looks different. That's just crazy, man. I don't know. Crazy. Let's try this again. Let's see. Hmm. All right. We're gonna experiment. Sorry, it's gonna take a second, but I thought maybe it's just a glitch last week. I thought maybe it's just a glitch from last week. Now, if you highlight the link, copy and paste it, it works fine, but you just can't click on the damn link that I'm posting. Oh. I don't know. It's crazy. Not working that way. Oh well. Guess we'll just have to share it this way. And so that works. So, hmm. Let's look at the militia page and see what that looks like now. Sorry, everybody. Little technical difficulties from time to time, I guess, to be expected. Now, let me see if I can copy that link. Let's see. I'd like to just be able to. Let me see if I can do it this way. Let's see if this works. Bear with me. No, it won't work that way. I guess we'll just have to share it the old fashioned way, and we'll be limited to who we can share it to, which kind of not good. No bueno, but yeah, we'll get the word out. We'll just count them and see how many. All right, let me try this. Let's see, is it already here? It's already there. It's already there. So that's the militia page. Let's see. Rock Gut. Is it in Rock Gut yet? All right, now let's see if I can post it this way in Rock Gut. Not even give me the option to pay. Here we go. Paste. No. Oh, well, guess we share it the old-fashioned way. And let's see, there's just 2 there, so yeah, that's not good. Not happy. All right, let me see how many I can share it with this way. And let's see. Bear with me, guys and gals. We'll get this worked out one way or the other. 6. 7. 8. Yeah, my guess is going to limit me pretty soon. But we'll see. 9. 'We'll see if I can or not. Maybe not. Well, if I can do it this way every time, I mean, it's as easy, I guess, if it's working. Let's see if it's a little harder. Let's see. Bear with me. I know. Hopefully, we can get through these slow starts. I don't even see that group here. It's in my. How the hell is that working? Anyway, let's just go ahead. Hopefully, I don't share it to one group twice. We'll see. A little slower this way. Yeah, there's the limit. Okay. That's about normal, though, really. I don't know why they've changed the way I share. It's definitely a lot easier the other way, but we'll just have to remember where that one was and what page was that. Let me see. Yeah. So I got about half. Yeah. Oh, well. Now, let me say howdy to everybody. What's going on? Midnight? What's up, Curtis? Hey, Frank. Happy birthday, brother. There's Clint. He wasn't dragging in too late. That's all right. You're good, brother. We'll be right here. What's going on, Steven? Good to see you. What's up, Drew? Good to see you, man. What's up, Thumping Keg? Man, if y'all didn't tune in the last episode, Thumping's got some really nice setups he's made recently. The stainless steel porn. Looks good, brother. What's going on, Patty? Hope you're having a good weekend, brother. Hey, James, how's it going? Jimmy Red, yeah, Jimmy Red's good stuff. A little less earthy than Bloody Butcher, so most people prefer for the red corns. They prefer the Jimmy Red over the Bloody Butcher. So yeah, Jimmy Red's good stuff. Actually, well, what I'm drinking's got a little Jimmy Red in it, little red, white, and blue. That's right. Cornbread and moonshine. Yes, sir. This is live. Live. You made it. Yeah, that's good, man. That's a Saturday night. That's what we're supposed to, ain't it? Yeah, Jimmy Red's good corn. Yeah. And corn dogs. Can't forget the corn dogs, man. Makes good corn dogs. Yeah, let's have it. Yeah. Let's see here. Take it. Yeah. Yeah, this is Derek's red, white, and blue. Oh, hell, GW. If I did that, man, we'd be starting at lunchtime. We're working on it, man. I just had dinner. No, listen here. I haven't. I'm a slacker. Drew. But I got to, man. Is that squeak loud for y'all? I mean, I don't have my. Yeah, I can see my little green light lighting up when I move like that. So, but when I get my leg bouncing real good, man, it'll start squeaking as I bounce my leg, man. It's like a little one-man band up in here. You can hear my heel hitting the ground and the chair squeaking. Hell, all needs a little juice harp, and I'll be ready to one-man band. She's doing wonderfully. Oh, I forgot to tell you. So last night on the shit show, we were talking about corn. Somebody's talking, or not corn, bacon, and how expensive bacon was. Guess what I found today? Some Fisher Melrose bacon, 16 ounce, $1.44. Now, I will say, freeze by date, user freeze by dates like April 4th or 6th. So, straight to the freezer with it, man. I tell you, I've had some bacon out of the freezer. It's been in there 4 or 5 years, man. It's still just that vacuum sealed. You couldn't even tell it. Now, sausage, it don't keep like that, but good bacon. Hell yeah, bro. So $1.44, we got all they had. They only had like 12. That had 20 at the bottom. So I love me some bacon. I hope old Donnie, man, I hope he's getting over his. We were talking about that last night too. This Lone Star tick will give you a bite, and it's alpha gal syndrome that will give you, and it makes you allergic to meats and pork, I guess, in particular. And my brother can't have bacon, man. He's like, fuck this. So he's going through every treatment he can get so he can start eating bacon again, man. Today was picks part of the floor and get the garden cultivated and fertilized. Hopefully, got a few more things in the ground. I tell you what, here, man, we got a little frost warning for tonight, and I think that's going to be the last one of the seasons. So I'm glad I waited. My guy who usually grows a lot of plants for me, I just talked to him last week. He said it's going to be a few weeks for him. So we're going to hopefully get some good plants on. He said he planted his a few weeks ago, but he's got a greenhouse. They got a big greenhouse down there in Danville. And of great deal on plants. They're like $1 each, man, and they're good sized pepper plants, like, you know, 10, 12 inches. Tomato plants about the same, already ready to go. They're not blooming yet, but they start them pretty early. Like I said, about 3-4 weeks ago he started them, so I guess they started them right in mid to late February. So should be pretty good. Can't have bacon. Oh my goodness, man! I'm so sorry that you can't, man. Hell, when they took my gallbladder out, they said, "Oh, you might be limited to your fats," and I'm like, I don't care if I feel bad. I'm still eating bacon. But it was at first it bothered me, but now it's been so many years it don't really bother me much anymore. Yeah, well, I heard down there high winds at the Louisiana Festival. I heard they had some pretty high winds down there last night, and Brother Wayne's tent might have gotten blown over and damaged some of his stuff. So hopefully everybody down there is doing all right. And I guess tonight's about to wrap up. Look like everybody's having a pretty good time down there. I'm messaging the shit out of it. Let me see who it is. Okay. Yeah, a friend of mine lost her. One of my high school friends just lost her husband, and prayers for her and her family. She's no girlfriend of mine. She's a really nice gal. I hate to hear that. I'm getting a lot of notifications from that. Yeah, I hate to hear that. We're starting to get old. But yeah, they had a lot of winds down there. What's going on, Mikey? Good to see you, brother. We were talking about that last night. They, some people, don't want to save the world and swear that cow farts are the cause of the greenhouse problem that we've got. Craziness. But I did see a chart last night. An independent group was putting it out. It's shows satellite imagery of the Earth in over the years, and in the past few years, the Earth is getting greener. So some of these semi-arid places on our planet that was once kind of brownish are starting to turn a little bit green. And that they say that because of the CO2 levels slightly increasing. And when I say slightly, everybody says CO2 levels increasing and we're going to die. It's like thousands, right? So they're the hundreds of thousands, 0.0001 to 0.0002 or 3. It's really minute, the percent in our atmosphere that it's increased. But that nobody wants to deal with facts, but they've looked at a lot of the photographs of the Earth from these satellites over the last few years and starting to get a little greener. So as things get greener, that means that more plants there's a little bit more CO2 for the plants to, respire and breathe in and give more oxygen. So I think as that it increases, the Earth is kind of self-healing. We've been through lots of periods of times when the Earth has been, like hundreds of thousands of times greater than it is now as far as CO2 in the atmosphere, and life made it. So I don't know. I don't buy into a lot of the madness. I think a lot of it's just basically create another program, or another office, just another way to utilize our tax dollars and channel it back into their pockets for their campaigns. And that's on both sides of the aisle. They both do it. So, yeah. Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, man, if I couldn't have it, but I'd just soon, I'd forfeit a limb if I could eat meat again. I couldn't become a vegetarian. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. Well, that's good. Good deal. Yeah, I know like lettuce and onions and stuff like that are pretty cold tolerant. There's a lot of stuff that are pretty cold tolerant, especially when they're just sprouting up. All right, Mr. Richard Landry, what's going on, man? Tell Richard O'San I said hello. And I hope Craig's doing better. It's been a while since I saw him at Maggie. I guess last time I saw them, both of them was at Maggie. Hope y'all doing good. Good to see you. Yeah, they probably down there in Louisiana too. I know that's their stomping grounds down there. I know he's been taking over Maggie Valley last few years, but I'm pretty sure old Richard's roots go down to Louisiana. So hopefully that wind didn't do too much damage. Hopefully that festival had a good time today. I wish I could have made it, but I just can't drive that far. Maybe when Ann can take some time off and we can do some festivals and have her drive. I just can't, I'm good for a few hours and that's it. What's going on, brother? I'm doing good, my friend. How you doing? Good to see you, man. We'll have to get you on here sometime and we can talk about what you got going on down there. Yes, sir. That's Mr. Richard Landry, the one and only. No, that's the real deal. I'm pretty sure. That's good to hear, man. It's good to hear. Hell yeah. Big shout out to the Bayou Brothers. Yeah, I heard old Wayne got his tent blown over and maybe it's a little bit damaged. Hopefully everything's all right. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, we're going to have to get you on here sometime, man, and give y'all a shout out. Maybe you can help us do a little Q&A one night. What do you think? Love to have you on. All right, let's see. Nah, I'd let it go, man. Bananas and fructose in general seems to go a little slow, especially when it's a little cooler, but I'd let it take its course. Just keep track of that hydrometer, man. Good deal. Yes, if you can get those oyster shells, those and start them early, Richard, those help a lot. But if the pH is real low, you got to get you, uh, yeah, don't use both sodium bicarbonate and lemon juice. Those are both opposite. So we use lemon juice or citric acid to lower pH and yeah, the eggshells, if you use the oyster shells, those buffer pretty well. So you don't have to use the baking soda. Baking soda will work if it's in a pinch, but get you some pH paper. Let me post that link. But the pH paper from they use it for the kombucha, and it measures pH from 0 to 7, which is basically what we deal with. So um, pickling lime, yeah, like Clint's saying, is pickling lime works better than the baking soda. The sodium in the baking soda is not good. But got to get you some pH strips first and measure your pH. And again, for everybody out there, when you don't want to fight the pH, so Um, when your pH starts getting a little low, you start at around 5.3. If it gets in the 4.5s or sixes, that doesn't mean it's crazy low and you need to start pumping in baking soda or whatever. It's going to naturally get low as fermentation continues, because there's a lot of organic acids that are created during the fermentation process. So it's natural for it for the pH to start lowering. Now, for sugar heavy, washes and musts and stuff that we use a lot of sugar in, those, and like tequila and rums, those have a tendency to pH crash a lot faster than like a grain fermentation. So, we have to, watch the pH and until it gets, like, if you're not even halfway through fermentation and it's gone from 5.3 to like a 3.5, then you're going to need to keep an eye on it. And you really needed those eggshells, not eggshells, oyster shells. They used to use eggshells. Now they use oyster shells. It's a pH buffer. It's not going to drop it immediately like pickling lime or, baking soda would. But as acid is produced, it's kind of neutralized. So it helps buffer it. Similar to that 5.2, bottles of stuff that you can get. Just calcium carbonate's all it is. It's just crushed oyster shells. They boil them up, clean them, and it's good to keep, for sugar heavy, like I was saying, for something that crashes quick. It's really good to have and keep in there. But get you some pH paper. Now let me pull up a picture of what you need to get. Let's see if I've got that here. I think it's in my screenshots from from a week or so ago, or two. Well, this PC is a little slower mowing. Crazy. Yeah, it's a lot slower mowing. There we go. So this stuff right here on Amazon, they call this kombucha pH test strips, Hydron. If you see, it measures 0 to 6. I said 7, it's 6. And this is the pHs we deal with. So when you start, you want it there at the bottom, you'll see 5.0 to 5.5. So it's going to be, a medium to, a lime green to a medium green when we start out. And then once it gets into the oranges, below 3, that's when it's critical and you need to start adding pickling lime. Now, if it's at the very end of fermentation and you're just about done and it's, the hydrometer is almost to 1, don't worry about it. You're done anyway. So don't waste the flavor. Don't create oxidation. Don't try to revive the yeast with all that. Just let it finish. You're done. Pretty much time to rack and run, right? So, but that stuff right there, shoot, what the heck is, well, where are we at here? There we go. Might have to fix this. I'm usually a little bit different. Damon's got me using a different little setup here, so I've got to create my own and edit it and get it just right. I usually take up this top quarter over here, so, and it's a little wider angle than I need to. You don't need to see the mess over here. Anyway, what's going on, Moonshine Co? Good to see you, bro. What's up, Gary? Good to see you, man. Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Oh, what you got? I know you got a jar. Yeah, me too. Yeah, he is. He is good people. Yeah, pickling lime is a calcium hydroxide, so it's going to be a little bit different than sodium bicarbonate baking soda. Both of them oxygenate, and both of them will get your yeast going back to breeding again. But the calcium hydroxide doesn't have the sodium in it, which is, kind of stressful for the yeast. Yeah, we got Ireland, we got England, we got about a lot of countries covered. We got people from Spain coming in here from time to time. We got New Zealanders, Canadians. We got them from all over. Got some friends down in Mexico. We got people drop in here from about all over, man. England, Ireland. Just did some back sweetening. Used 2 for 1 with honey and warm water. Awesome. Well, you'll find out soon enough. Now, if I'm correct, you make a lot of mead, so that's why you're using that honey. But yeah, a lot of people will use potassium metabisulfate or potassium sorbate. The potassium metabisulfate will kill yeast, right? So using that, we'll just cut it out. Boom. The potassium sorbate will basically neuter them. So they don't reproduce anymore, but they'll go ahead and live out their life. Some say it's a little less stressful for them, and you don't get off flavors that the potassium metabisulfate can create. So, there's 2 different schools there. Some people use both just to make sure, but a lot of people use the potassium sorbate. And you'll see that on a lot of your like fruit juices and stuff. So it's what they put in there to help keep the yeast dead and down. It's what. So definitely good to use before you back sweeten. Or there are sugars that aren't fermentable, so you can use some of the sugars that aren't fermentable to sweeten it up as well, without having to worry about adding the potassium metabisulfate and that sorbate. But those are just normal preservatives that you'll see in a lot of fruit juices and stuff. Yeah, it certainly helps out a lot. Now, what you do after you get done using them, I put them in cheesecloth. You can take them out and put them in a pot and rinse them, real good, and set them out on a towel, let them dry, and they'll be good to go. And the next time when you start boiling water, to melt your sugar or, to steep your, corn or grains in, throw that pouch in the boiling water and kill off anything that might be in there, fish it out with the tongs, and you're good to go. When it's time to throw it in there, by the same time you pitch the yeast, all the bacteria, anything that's built up on it will be killed off from boiling it, and it'll kill any kind of bad flavors from bacteria and stuff like that off, and you'll be ready to go again. But yeah, you can keep using them forever, and until the acid just basically washes them out, dilutes them down, breaks them down to nothing. Then you just add some more to your pouch and go again. You use little brew bags, the same, cheesecloth's just cheap and easy. I just throw a couple of handfuls in there and bind it tight in a little knot, and it's good to go. Anytime, brother. That's what we're here for, man. So if you got any questions, we're here to answer them, and we'll help you out and get you going. Pick on the other side of me of a casino table. I wish, man. Yeah, I've been to casino tables a few times. I was telling somebody last night, I've been to Vegas twice, and both times I came back with more money than I went with, and that's even after paying for the room, the food, and all the tips and everything else. I've always come back with more money than I left with, and I want to keep it that way. So knock on a little wood there. But I guess I'm gonna be hitting the horse track this weekend, or this week. Actually, Wednesday. A buddy of mine going to Keeneland. They got a little competition going. You enter in. Everybody, a bunch of people will enter in. It's a $10 entry. You enter in. You pick, I guess, probably about 7 different races, and whoever wins out of that gets $1,000, pretty good prize, and second and third place gets a lot of free meals, stuff like that. It's nice restaurants around town here, so it's a lot of fun, and it's an expensive way to get out there. And I'll spend more than that. I'll bet the horses. I do pretty well at horses too. Yeah, we're worldwide, man. We got that World Wide Web behind us, man. We're not just citywide, not just countrywide. We're nationwide or worldwide. Yeah, the Camden tablets, that is a potassium metabisulfate. That's the same thing. Heck yeah. Yeah, a lot of people will use both. Yep, that works. Little brew bag. Now, I'll tell you something else you can do with that little brew bag, too. If your still's right, you can sparge your grains. Make sure you get rid of all the small stuff in your grain and just keep the large stuff that bag will contain. And you can hang it in your still as you cook it off. Just keep it off the bottom, and as you distill, you can put that big pouch, hang it in there, and infuse some flavors. You can put botanicals in there. You can put some fresh corn in there. You can do a lot of different things with it. Or you could do the same in a thumper, just suspend it in there and use it for flavor infusion. But one thing a lot of people don't know is in the, here I'm plugging them again, but inside these Vever stills, let me pull it up here. Got a couple of different places I keep on my files, screenshots, and in here. So I need to move some of those screenshots over here so I don't have to screenshot them again. But if you notice right here, and this is one of the Vevers, at about a third of the way up, you see that little ring in there? There's a false bottom that comes with these. So you can put it down in there and you can suspend your brew bag in there. Now you want to sparge all the fines off, right? So you want to do that before you get, GW's out. Oh, I'm talking about the mess on my over my shoulder here. Yeah, there's a big mess. My desk is behind me, man. It's got so much junk piled up on it. But yeah, have a good one, brother. But anyway, back to this has a false bottom that comes with it. It looks like a pizza pan. It's got holes all in it, and it sits right in there, and it'll sit up off the bottom about that far. And probably be a good idea to put a coffee mug in the middle of it to help support it if you got a bunch of grain. But you can sparge the grain out of your brew bag, sparge all the fines out, and suspend it in there and set it down in there and kind of distill on the grain. Now, you got to be careful. You don't want a lot of fines coming out and settling down on the bottom. But once it gets boiling, you don't have to worry about it so much. But yeah, we entered a galactic, man. I'll tell you, daggone it, what is happening here? Every time I go add to stage and remove it, it wants to go back to there. I'm going to gotta fix this. Gonna have to set up my own now. Damon showed me how to set up my own little screen. I kept going in and removing all his and just setting my own up after I moved his. Now I've got my own little setup, so that'll be nice. What's going on, Mash Brothers? Good to see you. All right, y'all don't let me. Hell yeah. You don't like that Vever? Them Vevers, good little steels, man. Good little steels. They make some pretty good little liquor. No, I don't think Clint made it over. No, Clint's not saying goodnight. He's saying goodnight to GW. Irish isn't saying goodnight to you, Clint. She was saying goodnight to you. She's not leaving. Or he's not leaving. He thought that you were leaving because you said goodnight to somebody else. I see that in chat all the time. You don't? Well, I tell you what, man, I've tasted liquor out of a ever as good as that at any steel that you got. So, I mean, it's a boiler, it's a pot, it's a stainless steel pot that can boil. I mean, you know, it works just fine, man. And it's got a ferrule on the top. You can add copper, any copper post boiler. A lot of people going with stainless boilers, GW. They're going with stainless boilers and then copper in the vapor path, right? To get the benefit of the copper and not having to maintenance of the copper boiler. So, and it's not for everybody. If you want to have, if you want to have it's immature. It works great, man. It's a stainless boiler. I started out on a freaking on a double boiler, a pressure cooker. So, it's definitely a step up from the old cast aluminum pressure cooker I used back in the 70s. But it's a good little dependable stainless pot, man. I mean, there's a lot of seasoned distillers that are master distillers that run commercial distilleries that have them. They use them for testing and for beginners and intermediates, it's awesome. Even for advanced people that want to run tests and test some samples out. I mean, you can put anything on top of that stainless pot that you want to because of the ferrules. I've run some pretty complex distillation systems off of it, and they work quite well. And in fact, inside that little football on top, you can pack that with copper mesh, and you'd be hard pressed to tell if that was made with stainless pot or a copper pot. Now I'm not saying there's good or better than a copper pot. You'll never hear me say that. But for the money, for a beginner or intermediate or somebody that doesn't want to spend thousands of dollars getting in the game, it's a damn good alternative. Keg steels, another good alternatives that are cheap, $35. Well, I mean, you can agree to disagree, but you don't have to get mad now just because, I tend to disagree with you. Don't get mad and leave. Hell, just tell me why you like copper better. Copper has good benefits to it. It takes the sulfites out, but so will this if you put the copper mesh in there. Copper heats probably a lot more evenly than this will, so it helps for that. But for what it is, for a beginner, intermediate, to have just a little bit in it on it. So what's wrong with your Honda? All right, brother, that's good. I won't anybody mad at me, but I will recommend it. It's a decent setup for somebody starting out. So are keg steels. Not everybody's got thousand or two to chunk down for a copper pot. Now, I wish copper was cheaper, and you could buy a copper one for about the same price. Damn, I'd be all over it, man. I'd be pushing them. I'd be pushing them big time. But it's maintenance wise, it's a little more time. For some people, it's worth the trouble. And if you run a lot, I will say if you run a lot and you run like constantly, and you run every week at least, a copper pot's great because you don't have to clean it, put it up, and worry about the oxidation between uses. A lot of times people use them, they'll put them up for a few weeks. Oh, I forgot to rinse it out after I used it, and they go open it up and it's all green, and then they got to go through the trouble of keeping it um clean all the oxidation off there. So if you run it constantly, it's awesome. You don't have to worry about, just spray it out between uses and you're ready to go again. But I'll recommend that Bever. It works pretty well. I will before long. I'm getting ready to make mine. But it's gonna be. I gotta look and find me a good controller because I got a 9,000 watt element that I'm gonna fit to use 50 amp. I don't want to do multiple elements, and I want to use it also to boil water real quick. What's going on, Dizzy? So yeah, there's a lot of people out there making controllers. You can, if you don't know a lot about yeah, I think that it's a good way to go. So if you don't know a lot about wiring and doing all that, it's definitely best to have somebody make it for you. A couple few $100 on average, I think. Probably, what do we distill in here, man? We'll make whiskey, gin, vodka, rum, whatever the hell you want, brandies. We do it all, brother. Yeah, I got a. No, I'm not making it right now, man. I'm podcasting. And most people aren't, if they're running, they're not going to tell you that I'm running. You're a vodka guy? That's good. Vodka, when vodka's made, you have to really proof it up high proof for it technically to be a vodka. It's got to come off the tap at about 190 plus proof. So pretty much that's always run on a column, and it's pretty high proof. Then they cool. Well, hopefully I did well. I'll have to check it out. We got some people in here that make vinegar. Mikey makes vinegar. He's in here. Worked in a distillery for a month. Made vodka and whiskey. Awesome. Yeah, we got a viewer in here that makes vinegar, wine vinegar. Yeah, I think there's quite a few in the community that make them. Fix to make your first corn whiskey run on a stainless Distillers pot without a thumper. Learn all. Awesome, awesome. Well, if you got any questions, brother, just shoot. Yeah, there's a lot of people using stainless these days. It's now that we can put copper mesh in the vapor path, it's really reduced the benefit of and cost uh, of the copper. It's using that mesh. It's a lot easier to just take it out, rinse it out, and reuse it, and it's a lot easier to clean that mesh than it is to clean a steel. So and replace, when it's time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. 1 gallon steel. What is it? One of those air steels? 120. It's going to have to be a lot more than that. Now, if you are you fermenting in it, or is this something you're distilling in? Because if you distill in it, it's going to have to be a lot more than that if you're talking Fahrenheit. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's a good perk, man. That's a damn good perk. And the employee discount. That's always a nice perk too, especially when you talking whiskey. Rashy greens. Yeah, good point, Cave Daddy. Yeah, you can either buy the mesh or you can take copper pipe and just cut it like a little 1/8 sections, just chop, 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 chop. And or, any copper in any form like that. But these rashy greens, just chop them up and fill a void with them, and it'll remove the it's basically what you're removing is an impurity based sulfur base. It's a sulfite, and you get it a lot in brandies. I get it in my plum wines a lot when I make Slivovich plum brandy. But it's comes from sulfur. It's a sulfur form. It's a sulfite, and it bonds to the copper real readily. So as it's distilling and you got your steam going up through these rashy greens or this copper mesh, it comes into contact with that copper, and those sulfites just bond to it and they just stick to it like glue. And it helps remove those. And that's always been the big benefit of having copper steels and copper plumbing after the boiler. A lot of times you'll see somebody using a stainless boiler with copper plumbing past that. And that's to help remove those sulfites from the vapor path. So when you introduce these copper mesh or rashy greens, like Cave Day's talking about, it'll help remove those sulfites just the same. So you get kind of the benefits of both. You got the ease of maintenance of a stainless boiler, but you have the benefit of removing the sulfites from the copper in the vapor path. A lot of people will just have basically, as I said, a stainless boiler and copper, everything after that, copper cap, copper lint arm, copper thumpers, copper worms, and all that will help remove those sulfites as well. And it's kind of the best of both worlds when you set it up that way. So, it's okay to have that stainless boiler, and that little bever makes a good little boiler. It's not near as sturdy and well built as like a keg, right? And when somebody sees it sitting over there with that football cap on it, they like, it looks funny. What's that? But you see a keg in the corner, there's a beer keg. You don't think steel automatically when you see it. But both of them work pretty well. But those kegs are very durable. Best thing about the bever is you can run it on gas or a stove, whereas your keg steel, you're pretty much limited to putting it on gas, right? Unless you want to put a lot of people are putting ferrules and having them welded into the side of the keg steel, like at the bottom, third of the way up, and they'll put a weld in a 2-inch ferrule. That way they can insert these elements, these heating elements, stainless heating elements that we're talking about here in the chat, to heat it up, and that way, and running a controller is what they were talking about earlier, that controls the electric current to these elements. And those work real well, very well. In fact, most of the people that go with those, don't go back. I know a few that do, that prefer the gas, but for the most part, once a lot of people will do that. I'm not sure what he's talking about, brother. Now, when we talk about also, if you have a steel with small plumbing, don't stuff the copper in that small pipe. Please do not, for God's love of God, do not do that. You need it in a large area. So like in a thumper, yeah, like Rock and Ranch Man's talking about, inside of a thumper or inside of a void like that, like the cap. If you have a regular whiskey cap or, anything like that, or even down in your lint arm, you can put it in there, but make sure it's something of size. Most of us have like 1.5 or 2-inch spools coming off, or in a large area, you can put it in that. Not stuffing it. Don't want to inhibit the flow or creating back pressure at all. You want it to flow freely through it. But like in the, in that Bever football cap, it's, pretty good open space in there. It's got a little screen in the bottom, so you can just stuff it in there. Works well. But please, if you're listening, do not stuff small diameter pipes, inch, 3/4, 5/8, 1 inch or less, ever, and inhibit the vapor path that way. Because what can happen is you puke into it, and you can get little on the top of the surface. It gets a lot of particulates and stuff from the mash. That if it's not perfectly clear, which it usually isn't, you'll get a lot of little floaties. They'll bubble up, and if it pukes, it'll puke into that, and they'll build up, and they can build up some back pressure, and it can create some problems, and it can be quite dangerous. So, but yeah, in a thumper, you can put them for sure. Yeah, if you got access to your thumper where you can take the top off and get in there, and yeah, you can put them in there. And again, if you're using the 2-inch tri clamps and you're using 2-inch plumbing, 2-inch spools, you can loosely roll it up and put it in there as well. We're not rolling it real tight and packing it and forcing. It's just loosely rolled. You just want the vapor to come into contact with it, because that's all it has to do. And that copper mesh has a large surface area. I will say, when you order it, make sure that it says 100% copper and solid copper and pure copper. A lot of times they have like, I guess they'll use copper or copper plated steel for, like, I guess in the furniture refinishing business, kind of like a steel wool pad to help, sand stuff off and scarificate surfaces so things will stick to it, makes scratches in it. Scarificate, yeah. I'm having trouble with that when I drink, but yeah, just to scratch it up so that it adheres, kind of like sanding, but they use it. Yeah, you definitely want to have a pressure relief valve and a secondary valve that you can open. I like having the pressure relief valve that way. If you forget to open up the valve, you can, and also not just a pressure relief valve, you want to vacuum too, so to keep your steel from imploding, right? So if you forget to open it up after you get, finish running, your steel doesn't implode. So yeah, you should have one that handles pressure going out and also vacuum coming in. So what's going on, Roy? Good to see you, brother. Doing good. But yeah, certain stresses to yeast can cause these sulfurs to build up, and also using certain mashes, like I was talking earlier, every time I do my plum ones, those plums tend to be a little higher sulfur. Dark grapes tend to be a little bit more of a sulfurous must. But yeah, use copper in your column. I stripped 20-foot 4-gauge car amp wire and coiled it. Yeah, that'll work. Yep, that works great, man. And yeah, I soak mine in citric acid too, and just rinse it off. It's good as new again, man. And you can reuse it for a long time. And when you're done with it, you just recycle it and cut you off another bit of it. But yeah, that's that 4-gauge car amp wire. That's pretty expensive stuff, man. The mesh is real cheap that you can get. And it lasts you a long time. And I'll trade mesh for that 4-gauge car amp wire. So I guess that's a stranded wire and not a solid. So that's probably a little cheaper then. Slobber box with copper. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work too. Yeah. Yep. That'll work just fine. Yeah. Well, what happens is at 170 degrees, pure ethanol will start to boil, 173.1. But when you mix that ethanol with water and other alcohols that are all in that mash, isopropyl, there's all kinds of different alcohols and different other compounds that are what's called azeotropic. And let me show you a little. Here we go. Now you'll see in this chart, if it ever comes up. All right, here we go. Let me take this chat down so you can see. Now you'll see on the left side here, we got boiling point of ethanol. Starts at 170, goes to about 211, which is a boiling point. of water, 173 boiling point of pure ethanol. So if we go over here, and this is percentage, so it's not proof. So it's going to be half of what proof is, right? So 100% is 200 proof, and we know we can't quite get there. So the chart kind of levels off right before it gets to 100. So you'll see that box just to the left of it on the very bottom right, and that is the boiling point of pure ethanol. What happens is as we go to the left, that boiling point rises and rises and rises in a pretty fairly even curve based on the amount of water and other alcohols that are in there. So the more water and other alcohols that are in there that have different boiling points are all combined, it affects the boiling point of the ethanol. So the ethanol no longer can boil off at 173.1 degrees because it's azeotrophically bound with these other compounds in there. Now, in a fractional distillation, you'll see when they fractionally distill, it will separate these components inside the column based on their evaporation point. So, the lower the boiling point, it tends to evaporate off quicker as opposed to the higher boiling point, like your water. So you can see by this chart, and actually that was backwards, so the water will evaporate before the alcohol. Or condense before the alcohol, but the alcohol will evaporate and boil off and vaporize generally first. And there's a good curve there that shows. So what we deal with is between 0 and 20. So that would be 40 proof, 20 proof. So most of our mashes are going to be 18, because our yeast can only go up to about 18. So unless you're putting tails in there or something like that, you're going to be dealing with 10 on this or less. Now, if you go up to 10, it's going to be in the mid 190s. So what happens when you're looking at your still, you can start the temperature and you've got a thermometer in the middle sometimes of your boiler, and then sometimes you'll have one at the top and maybe an elbow or something measuring your vapor temperature. So you'll always see a little bit of difference. Your vapor temperature is always going to be a little cooler than your boiler temperature, but and based on the proof. So if we're rerunning something and we do it like at 80 proof, or less, like we talk about, that will be 40 on here. So at about 183, 184, somewhere in there, you're going to start seeing some alcohol boil off. Now, if we could control this and break these azeotropic bonds, we could easily fractionally distill, and we could just turn the still up to 175, 178, and just cook off the ethanol. We wouldn't have to worry about making cuts. But unfortunately, because of the azeotropic bonding, all this methanol, which has a different boiling point, much lower. Your methanol is 140 some, what is it, Clint? 140 some degrees, 43 or something like that degrees. If that was the case, we could go to 150 and just let it sit there, and all that methanol would cook off. But it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Nothing. But if you watch your still, and I have, as it heats up, at about 170, 80, you'll get a little what's called smoke on the water. And that's basically condensation because you have a difference in the air temperature in the still and the liquid below it. Kind of like a lake. When a lake's warm and you got that cool air, how you get that, fog, basically. You're going to get that as well. But when you look at the bottom of the still, you'll start to see little bubbles form at the bottom as it's heating up. And that's because that bottom where the fire's hitting, or that element's right next to, or whatever, it's a lot hotter right in that bottom inch of the liquid than it is, of course, in the top inch. You're going to see quite a drastic difference. So at the bottom, it could be in the 190s and starting to bubble a little bit. But in the rest of it, the rest of your mash could be, still in the 170s, 180s, nowhere near ready. So a lot of people will circulate that to help prevent that and get it to cook off more evenly at a specific temperature. And other people, keep sediments from settling down while it's during the heat up stage. But most of the action we see are going to be in the 190s. That's why a lot of people will crank up the heat, and once it gets to the point where it starts to condense and boil off, and condense and drip, that's when they'll back it down a little bit, to kind of, to establish a specific drip to keep your, don't want to overrun it or underrun it, but based on the size of your steel, you'll adjust that flow. And, but yeah, I wish there was no azeotropes. It would be so much easier. We wouldn't have to worry about making cuts or anything like that. Um, yeah, if it's, oh, coming out of the worm at that. Yeah, you definitely don't want it coming out that warm. Coming out of the worm, you want it to be about 65, 75 degrees. So you'll adjust your the coolant that you have, in your reservoir going around your condenser. You'll want to adjust that down to where the drip is coming off between 65 and 75. Yeah, that's too warm. And you'll see that a lot on these Vevers, these 3-pot Vevers. Now, GW, what got Vever a bad reputation is their 3-pot steels they put out. And they put so millions of those little 3-pot steels. They're real cheap and they're okay once you do work on them. But as they are, they're going to require work. The condensers are way undersized. The plumbing is way undersized. And you really have to run super, super cold water or have to pack ice in these condensers, to keep them cool enough to function properly without getting too warm like Richard's experiencing. So that was in the gaskets that they had on a lot of these steels were horrible. So those are two things that really gave Vever a bad name. And I guarantee you if they could take it all back, they would. But once if you do have a 3-pot, it's not the end of the world. You can drill a hole, you can put a bulkhead fitting in there, you can increase the size of your plumbing, you can plumb it away from your steel. A lot of times they had condensers sitting around on top of the steel. Worst place in the world for it because it's hot up there, right? You want your condenser to stay cool. So instead of having it sit on top, you can, do your little bow and plumb it, put a bend in your elbow and your copper and run it away from your steel a little bit. And then, condense, a couple of feet away from the heat and increase the size of the worm and the plumbing. And it'll, again, you'll have a good stainless little boiler, but you'll eliminate the problem. New gaskets, I think Philbilly and them have gaskets. Problem with these is if you don't tighten them enough, they leak, and if you over tighten them, they crack and leak. So you had to do it just right every time. Not saying that you couldn't get them just right. But they can and they will eventually crack on you because eventually you'll have to tighten them up a little bit more each time, and eventually they'll crack. And there are good, aftermarket gaskets that you can get that won't be as bad as that. Some urethane or some good PTFE gaskets will work pretty well. But yeah, the 3-pots really gave Bever a bad name because it required work. And, again, after you get them worked up and make the modifications needed to them, they make fine little boilers. Yeah, I'm getting ready to too, man. I got to get this controller built. Me and Wes going to build it, and he's helping me out. I've got a 10,000 watt controller, but I'm not sure if it's gonna. I don't think it has the duty cycle enough to run a 9,000 watt element. So I'm gonna have to get something beefed up, or I don't know if I can run tandems and split it between two and recombine it. Maybe have to talk to somebody that's got a little more knowledge about electronics than me. So yeah, chestnut. It's good stuff. A chestnut will put a good oak or a good color quick. Philbilly kind of experimented with that. We talked years ago. We talked in, I guess, the old shit show. We were all talking and we were talking about barreling, and I was telling them about how back in the old days, back in the 1700s and 16, 17, 1800s, they used to use chestnut a lot. But this was before the blight, right, killed off all the chestnuts, especially the American chestnut. And so a lot of, and even in the early 1900s, but as the chestnut blight come out, they started looking for alternatives, and white oak, of course, was already being used. And so they just pretty much got double duty now, and they used it at French oak as well for a lot of wines and whiskeys and bourbons and barrel aging. So he experimented with, it's expensive wood to get too. So he got some charred chestnut in it. And first thing we noticed was that, I use chestnut tannins in my winemaking. Um, but he noticed right off the bat, much darker, quick and dark, really quick darkness. So it gave it good color clarity, and gave it a good flavor, different than oak. I'm not going to say better or worse, just different. Some people would probably like it more. Some people would probably like it less, but definitely something to experiment with. Yeah. And it was actually at one point in time the preferred method for a lot of ports and wines and whiskeys. Yeah, yeah, you definitely need to try to increase the size of your plumbing and run cold. What you're going to have to do is get you some water bottles like this and pour some of the water out of it. Open it up, pour a little water out of it, and put them in your freezer. You got to pour a little out, that way you'll have room to expand when it freezes. But put the cap back on. But put them in your freezer and have a dozen of so of those ready, and just sit them inside that condenser as you're circulating. And that you might have to bend that a little bit, the copper a little bit, to make it go in there. But just set that down in there frozen, and it'll help bring that temperature down. Or you can do a lot of people that have a reservoir like a cooler or something that they pump out of and recirculate from into. You can put gallon jugs of frozen water, and down in there and help keep it cool. That's what a lot of people do. Or, you can basically put a tote outside and have your gutters draining into a tote. Use it to water your vegetables and everything else, and also use it to recirculate coolant. And again, you can drop, something cold into that. But it's such a large reservoir, it'll generally be a pretty good heat sink, and especially when it's cold outside, you got a pretty good one. But make sure you drain it before it freezes. Yeah, you can check that. Yeah, for sure. That copper mesh, when you get it, check it with a magnet. Make sure it's not copper plated steel. Good point, Richard. Yeah, again, vacuum relief valves and pressure relief valves, definitely having both those. Plus just a, half inch, 3/8, 5/8, whatever ball valve on the top. That way you can just open it up when you're done, 1 inch, whatever. Um, Open it up when you're done. Simple, easy, just to create that, lose that vacuum from imploding your steels. I've seen a lot of nice copper steels and imploded. What's going on, Roy? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, I do that, or 2 liters. Yep. Yeah, they sure work well. Yep, that works great. And you can measure the temperature coming off the drip, and if it's less than 65, you can take one of them jugs out, and say, okay, I guess I don't need 2 jugs. I'll just use one, and then test it. And you may just need to add 1 jug until it gets, or you may need more. But yeah, 65 to 75 is kind of the ideal temp for your Fahrenheit for your distillate to be coming off the tap. Yeah, maple's another good one. I would use a sugar maple. Be careful. Some people are a little sensitive to like red maples and red oaks. That's why they don't use those a lot in barrel making and in the chips and stuff. I mean, for smoking and for food and stuff, fine. But um, a lot of people, me included, when you use red oak or red chestnut or red maple and some of these other, I get flushed and start getting, or I don't know what they call it, splotches of red, rash like looking, hives looking. So yeah, I have some allergies to it, I guess, and it's just affects, especially redheads and lighter skinned people. It affects differently. Yeah, you don't want to pack it tight at all, but a slight packing, yeah. I guess in they'll show it here in this image of this column that you can get, and this is one of the columns that you can put on these Vevers. They're cheap. Where in the world is it? My goodness. Okay. That should be right here because I moved all my files. I thought. Oh, I know damn good well I just showed it last night or night before. Wow, this is crazy. All files. Okay. Guess it helps if I select all files. Yep, that's why I wasn't showing it. Daggone it. But here in this bottom, you see it shows a little cutaway here at the bottom of that first spool right below the sight glass. You can see, it's got little layers of copper mesh. And in most of these little columns you can get these from about 120 to 150, 60 bucks. Sometimes they'll go on sale a little bit cheaper. But on the left in that little circle, you can see that wire going across there. They put that in there just so these rolled up mesh don't drop down into your boiler, right? So they'll slide all the way down. They're loose, right? You don't want them, not packing it. You're just rolling it up and just dropping it in there, and it'll go down to this little stop bar, what you will, and it'll keep it from dropping down into your pot. And then you can put several rolls of your copper mesh inside that bottom spool. They call these spools, and then there's your sight glass. I'll put mine in the sight glass too, so I can see my reflux from my deflegmator above that. I can adjust the temperature of the cold water going into the bottom of that and keep it dancing right about the middle on the copper inside that sight glass. And I can pull some pretty high proof, doing it that way. If you're shooting for higher proof, making vodka, this is definitely the way to go. If you don't want as high proof, don't use the deflegmator. Just take it out of line and still use your copper mesh. You'll get some reflux. Yes, absolutely. Some passive reflux from that. And you'll get a lower proof. Running this column right there on my Vever, I can get probably about 186.7, no trouble at all. And I could cool the water down even more going into that deflegmator and condense more water and get more alcohol pushed through and get it to 190. I've never had the need to. Actually, I wasn't even shoot for 187. And then when I saw, I put the hydrometer on it after the drip, I'm like, damn, that's a little hotter than I thought it was going to be, man. But yeah, they work great. And you can put that on a keg or a little Vever or anything that's got a tri-clamp. That's one of the big benefits of those Vevers is that it's got the tri-clamp fitting there for you. Yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with having a small steel, brother. It's easy to use. It's hard to make those cuts, though, brother. I'll say. But be real careful, Richard. I'll worry about you, brother. Be careful. Make sure you got somebody with you. Never leave it alone, and never drink too much while you're running. What's going on, Mike? We was talking about you earlier, man. We had some people from the vinegar. Let me roll back here and see some people from some vinegar review channel. So might want to look them up. I guess they've already listened to some of my podcasts and did a review on me, a little sneak lurking review, which is fine. I wish they'd let me know they were on so I could say howdy, but I hope I did good. I don't know. May have to go check them out and see. But yeah, you might want to check them out. They might you might be able to help them out with some of your experimentation. Yeah. It's basically when they're jar rigs like that, it's more of an infuser, but it does serve as a second distillation. So technically could be considered, a thumper as well. But if hopefully it's got my bypass on it, so you can bypass it and take the jar off and put another jar on there with the infuser, or if it starts to fill up, you can bypass it, remove it, dump it, and put it back on there and move your bypass back through it. But It's air steel. Cool, cool. I've never run one of those. I've got some friends that's got them. They kind of like them too. So I don't know. A lobby. Yeah, I've got shotguns. Um, Probably going to have a big worm. I'm going to set up a different. I'm going to make a copper steel, and when I do, I'm probably going to get a 5/8 coil and make a worm, make more of a traditional steel. Star sand works good too. Yeah, star sand's acidic, so it'll help remove that oxide, the oxidation, and just don't want to leave it in there too long, or else it'll acidify and make them green. So we just want to clean them out and sterilize them and then rinse them and let them dry. And then once they start getting green, yeah, then you can start putting the vinegar, citric acid, star sand to them. Yeah, yeah, cool beans. Yeah, yeah, chestnut's a good. It's expensive, It's expensive, especially like a wormy chestnut. I guess you wouldn't want to use a wormy chestnut in a barrel lid, would you? Have little streams coming out everywhere from the wormholes, but um, yeah, yeah, chestnut's good. One left. So there you go. Better get it. Yeah, I've got some friends that run their stills, and it's 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 a good way. I guess some of them seem to like it. They run little tests on it and stuff. Oh, you do? Cool, cool. Damn, I'm getting behind. All right, let me share some more links out there. It's after 9, so I can share some more links. And let's see, where was I? I reckon I was about there. That's exactly where I was. All right, let me share the rest of these and bear with me. I have to do it the hard way these day and time. But he'll get them out there one way or the other. So give me a few minutes to get these shared. I might already put one here, but I'll put another one. Need to start doing a little checklist. That way I'll know. Yeah, it's about the same as the other way, except it's a lot more difficult. A lot more difficult. And all of them aren't together in this one like they were in the other one. I had them all together. And I've got a lot of groups that I follow on Facebook. All right, that looks like most of them. Well, no, there's another one there. See, tag on it. All right, so I think that's about it. I'm definitely going to have to work on that and see if there's an easier way. Talk to Facebook, find out what the hell's going on. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, we got you, brother. Interesting. Yeah, you can run it too cold. And what happens is a lot of the fats start to thicken, and you're especially once you start getting close to your tails and stuff. Um, you got a lot of fats in there and oils, especially from corn oils and stuff, vegetable oils. So when you get too cold, those fats start to thicken on you, and they don't estrify, and they don't blend in, and they don't bond as well. And of course, they can get you can get too warm as well, and the opposite happen, and it bonds too much. So um, has to do with the fats, and also if you get cold filtering, basically you're almost considering cold filtering, and it kind of shocks it when it comes out, and you get it too cold too quick. Somehow it shocks, and molecularly it does something different. So it's on a molecular level, and the compounds are affected by it. You've heard of people cold filtering. So if it gets too cold, it almost starts that process. A lot of people don't like the cold filtered, because it will take some of these oils out of the distillate itself. Some people cold filter it to the point where they'll get a little fat layer, and they clean that off and remove the fats from the distillate. And most people prefer that. So some people do like a cold filtered whiskey, and I think most probably would not. I think most of your professional tasters and samplers and mixers, blenders, whatever, um, master blenders, they would definitely shun a cold filter. They might add it to their blend, for a unique taste, but most of them don't like it because it does remove a lot of character. Yeah, he's got parts for the Vevers, man. He can get that thing converted, and get you converted over where it's going to be safer for you, and give you a bigger condenser, and where you can have a little bit cooler distillate coming off there for sure. But yeah, him and Ian, they make all kinds of parts for Vever. And your 3 pot, just tell them what you got, and they'll hook you up. I would recommend getting a little bit bigger boiler, maybe going up to a 5 when you do increase it. And you could use that 1 for a thumper then, and increase the size of your pipes and everything. And you could use that 1 gallon for a thumper. That'll work well too. And then have a good sized copper coil for your condenser. Or maybe even up to a 10, and use that 1 would still work as a decent little thumper. Yeah, they usually, with people with the Vevers, the only thing left is the pot itself. Most people take every bit of the plumbing off the top. They re-drill holes, have larger diameter, have larger copper coming off of it. And sometimes, that like I was just saying, that 1 gallon, 5 gallon pot become a thumper for their next setup. And that works well too. It's not wasted. It's, you learn and you upgrade, and you use that, just move it over, right? So you get a bigger boiler, and you just move your old boiler over and make a thumper out of it. A lot of people do that. So there's a lot of 1 and 5 gallon Vevers that started out as a main pot that are thumpers. Millions of them out there. Trust me, millions of them out there. A lot of people, once they upgrade, they might convert those things over. They make a good little thumper, and they're a good little pot. It's just that once you get those fittings redone, and get that condenser and that slobber box away from the top of the steel, and then you'll be a little better off. Used to work for a biopharmaceutical company. We use those connectors, gaskets, and tanks for serious chemical cleaning, and also holding. Yeah, the tri clamps are good for like 300 psi. So, and in distilling, we deal with maybe 3 psi. if you have a really big thumper with deep water on it, maybe up to 5, but really low pressure. And so they're really way overkill for what we do. But it's they don't custom make stuff specifically for us. If they did, it'd be very thin walled, lightweight. Everything would be much lighter weight. The valves, these 1-inch valves and these 2-inch valves on this tri-clamp stuff, they're heavy as fuck. They're like 40 pounds, man. They're heavy as hell. I ordered some and I'm like, shit. I sent them back and got the butterfly valves. They're much lighter weight. But yeah, the ball valves, the 2-inch ball valves, man, the bodies on them are stainless. They're that big around. It's like little dumbbells, man. It's crazy. You work out with the damn things, and they're very hard to actuate. You have to use a little grease on them to get them loosened up a little bit. But yeah, they're definitely designed for some serious pressures and chemistry and chemicals. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they hold up to a lot. Yeah, and also, a lot of the barrels that we use for fermenting come from the pharmaceutical industries. My barrels, once, I got them out of Louisville, got a real good deal on them, and they, I can get 5 or 6 of them at a time because I can set them inside of each other and put them in the back of the car, in the back seat of the car, and do like 5 or 6 40-gallon ones at once. But yeah, they were pharmaceutical. You just got to clean them out real well. What fentanyl or nothing? I guess you'd be hard to clean that stuff out. It's concentrated, but it's most of the time just simple compounds. But yeah, wash them out and they make good little fermenters. But yeah, there's a lot of distillation that goes on in the pharmaceutical industry, and there's a lot of tinctures and stuff that are made, with boiling alcohol and certain plants and other compounds used to create and synthesize chemical. What's going on, James Gray? Yeah, he's got all kinds of Vever parts, him and Ian. And they make a lot of stuff to go on the top of your Vevers and on top of kegs. So that's kind of what they specialize in. They also make hellaciously nice. I'm going to show from my brothers, man. He just posted this. This is his latest build. Right there. You don't get a nicer 20-gallon still than that right there. And that's 20 to the bottom of the cape. That ain't. But man, that's a nice setup right there. It's got my bypass on there, and those are the infusion jars, and nice copper worm, and nice properly sized copper all the way through to the worm. Nice setup, man. That's very nice setup right there. Doesn't get much nicer than that. I'd love to have me one of those at about a 30. Yeah, that's the bomb. So Philbilly, yeah, he'll make you steels like that all the way on down. I mean, that's kind of the Cadillac with that big, huge sight glass, but they'll make you, capes and caps for your caps for your Vevers, for your keg steels. They'll make you jar rigs, anything you need. And they got they kind of specialize in reworking. They'll send you little packages and stuff to take your Vever 10-gallon or whatever. They'll send you gaskets and large pipes and larger thumpers, whatever you need, man. They'll work with you. Just let them know what you're looking for, and yeah, they'll work. Oh, you're on an 8-gallon. All right, that's good. Good deal. I thought you said 1 gallon. I was like, damn, bro, you need to step it up. 8 gallons good. That's good. Hell yeah, we need to do some shots. It's after 9. It's 9:35. I'm glad I got those second links out, man. I'm gonna have to send Facebook a message and see if there's something I can do. I know I talk about that every week. I'm just getting tired of but they changed up the way I normally did it. And I got used to doing it that way, and it was pretty simple. I could go to each page, and I like going to each page and post that link there so I can see if they have a live going on. Because, like on Mark Morgan's, Uncle Moonshine, if he's got a live going on, I ain't going to post my live to his page while he's got a live. That's just not, it's not proper. You don't want to do that. So when somebody else has a live going on their page, you have to respect it. Now, if it's somebody else's live and they've just posted to it, fine, yeah. But if it's their page, their live going, yeah, it's probably not a good idea to post to their page your live while somebody else is doing a live. Just, honor. So I like looking at those pages, to see if if they have a live going, So, like my Catley's and Brittany's page, I like when I pull that up, they got a live or something going on. I don't want to post there. And there's a few others, if Roger's got one on Copper Steel Outlaws, I don't want to, post it while he's got something going on. So I like being able to look at those pages and while I post and also just see kind of real quick what's going on, what everybody's posting. Maybe I can, talk about something that I see, in one of them. But yeah, I got to talk to him about that. Anyway, shot time. Made it from a Brewmaster pot. Awesome, brother. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. It's kind of like the Digiboils and the T500s. They got an element built into the bottom of them. I know exactly what you're talking about now. I looked at those. My biggest concern with those was if the element goes out, it's going to be hell to get a new element and put it in there, and it'd be hard to heat it from the bottom and take it out. You just have to take it apart and try to replace the element or fix it. And I just decided I just get a plain old pot. I could run it on the stove or run it on a turkey fryer or, set it up on some bricks and run it. And that bever, that fits all bills, Now I wouldn't run the bever on like a wood fire. But on a turkey fryer or a stove, they work well. So it's kind of a good all around steel, and they work just fine. I like I say, I'm going to build me a copper one. I've had copper in the past, but they got stolen. It's kind of hard to leave them out and around and behind the storage shed. And I had caps stolen off my big 80s and had copper caps on a stainless boiler, and they stole my caps off those. It's kind of hard to keep anything around people these days. So got to keep it under lock and key. So any mods I do, any new steels, it'll be either inside or in locked storage building. Think about getting me a shipping container storage building. I got some termites that eat the wood, and my whole storage building is getting eaten up. And got a lot of stuff in it. I'm going to have to get me a storage container, man. Them termites ain't going to eat that metal up. I'm sure my neighbors love that, though. HOA be knocking at my door tomorrow. Yeah, 8 gallons fine. But I would definitely increase the size of the plumbing coming off of them. What's going on, KT? Good to see you, brother. I'm a little behind. No, about 8 minutes. That's not too bad. I am in Kentucky, brother. I thought you knew that. Yeah, I'm old hillbilly from Kentucky. Kept the boiler and column on an 8 gallon, but the rest is different. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it before. Nice setup, brother. I won't hold that against you, man. I know these people from Ohio are in here like, uh-oh. Yeah. There ain't nothing wrong with Michigan except I got an ex-wife that's from Mount Clemens, northeast of Detroit. I've been up there before. People thought I was crazy. I just walk right through downtown Detroit and, oh, man, you get mugged in that area. Shit, I stopped and talked to people. They thought I was crazy. They was about half right. Shit, I talk to anybody. I don't care. I've been in some of the roughest neighborhoods in America, man. Doesn't bother me none. True. I agree. Yeah, with these little Vever football stills. Now the milkshake one, it doesn't have the tri clamp on it, so you have to get the football. Now they not there's nothing wrong with the milkshake one. I think Chris Palin has the milkshake one, and it does fine. It just has a condenser on top, and uh, and it works fine, but it's not modular like the football. Yeah, once you get that one, it's you can use it for a lot of things. I'll have to put my pictures of some of my old setups on here. But yeah, I've got some old setups that look like a gas refinery or something with all the plumbing and pipes and stuff coming off that Vever. And it's pretty complex, and they do good. Colorado, awesome. It stays pretty cool out there. Beautiful place, man. I've been out there skiing a few times. I got a nephew that lives out there too, and got a buddy that used to work in the prison systems, and he'd have to go out there and do continuing education. I'd go out there, and he liked to ski too, and we'd hit the slopes, hit that Breckenridge and Arapahoe Basin. I love the Arapahoe Basin, man. Double black diamonds just straight off. It's almost like cliff diving. You're skiing straight off cliffs, man. You don't realize how bad it is until until you're coming or going and you look back at the mountain you're skiing on. It's just like that, man. It's like, wow, it doesn't seem like that when you're skiing, but when you look at it from the road, man, it's like you just skied off a cliff, bro. I used to ski like hell until I messed my shoulder up really badly, and then it's tough. I got them old man knees now. I can't really do it anymore, but I used to love snow skiing, man. I'd ski them steepest black diamonds. It's crazy. Yeah, yeah, they do. Pickle barrel, olive barrel is probably a little better than the pickle barrel. I've heard a lot of people with the pickle barrel having trouble getting that pickle flavor out, and I'm like, well, make you some pickle moonshine until the pickle flavor goes away, man. It'll help you out. You take advantage of that barrel until it's done, right? Make you some pickle shine. But yeah, in response to the guy earlier, the pharmaceutical barrels are food grade and HDPE. There's different grades of the HDPE, and you get that good food grade HDPE. Man, they last forever. It's very inert. Heads will affect it slightly, so you don't want to. I wouldn't store liquor in them. And I wouldn't store liquor in a tote either. I've seen a lot of places storing their tails and heads in totes. And I don't think I'd do that. You get microplastics and that shit, man. I don't, yeah. And it's going to take a really good filtration system to get that out. So I wouldn't recommend storing liquor in there, but fermentation, 10, 12%, 18 proof or whatever, 18%, 20, 40 proof, whatever. You're not really going to have to deal with a lot of heads and stuff and acetaldehydes and acetones that are going to deal with it. But once it's concentrated, and coming off, and you put those concentrated high proof, high concentrations of that in I wouldn't do that in plastic. So that all my tails and heads get stored in glass. Well, my heads get thrown. I don't even say those. A lot of people run them again. I don't fool with it. I cut it off at the lower heads, for aging and stuff, and no heads for stuff I want to drink immediately. But I don't redo. I don't do the feints of the heads when I rerun. I'll save tails all the way up down as far as I can, but as far as heads go, I just charcoal lighter fluid, start your grill with, start a fire, in the wintertime in your fireplace, great for that. Great for cleaning countertops. Great for cleaning eyeglasses. I've got a little squirt bottle here. I keep using that. It's got glass cleaner written on it. This is contact solution. And actually, I keep heads in these, and I'll use it and I'll squirt it on a Kleenex, and I'll clean my glasses with it, right? And this lasts a long, long time as a glass cleaner for glasses, right? Just a little squirting on a Kleenex. It don't take a few drops. So I have some of this time in here for years, right? So the last time I did that, I guess they might not have been high heads. There was a little bit lower heads, and man, it would smell so good. And I'm like, man, it used to smell like acetone. Now it's starting to smell good. And basically it esterified in this bottle and started smelling fruity and good. And of course I wasn't going to drink it, but it smelled good enough where I might. And I knew it had plastics in it because this isn't, I don't even know what kind of plastic this is. Yeah, this is PETE, polyethylene toluene. So it's not really good for alcohols, but yeah, I started smelling good. I'm like, well, damn. And that's a perfect example of how, the esterification process works. Those things will improve over time, right? The acids and the ethanol in it will combine together and esterify and make some fruity, some good flavors and some interesting smells. So it actually starts smelling pretty good. Yeah, it is. You got to bring them inside, man. Just, and use different yeasts, use wine yeast and stuff. EC1118, again, perfect. It's a champagne yeast. It loves cooler temperatures. It loves 68, 72, but it's going to take a lot longer to do. So be patient and, get your hydrometer and be patient with it, and it'll ferment clean. The EC1118 doesn't have a lot of floral notes, a lot of all the different notes. It finishes pretty clean, so it's a neutral. So it's good for brandies if you're not trying to create flavors. You're just wanting to accentuate the flavor of what you've got. It's fine for those. But there's a lot of other ones out there that will add, a lot of fruity florals and high ester, type yeast that will build up more ester, acetaldehydes. Yeah, just got to take your time. A lot of people use fish tank heaters, and I use a space heater. If I want to try to, stay with a deity, yeast or a bread yeast, and I'll put a space heater in there with my grains and keep it warmed up. But a lot of times with brandies and stuff, if I'm using a Red Star Premier Blanc or a Premier Rouge, I'll let it get down to the mid 70s, pretty much the temperature of my basement, and it's fine. Check on your Facebook Marketplace is the best place. 15-gallon. Are you talking about the wood barrels? If you're talking about the wood barrels, they ain't cheap. But I got a couple 15s off a lady. She's out of Wisconsin, and I doubt she makes it out your way. But shipping's just too much. But she comes to the festivals, and if you talk to her before a festival, you can kind of pre-order or just buy it at the festival. I know she's at Farm to Bottle last year, and they're like $120 for a 15-gallon. So they ain't cheap. That's a lot more. I can get a 53 here in Kentucky for half that. So, they're not cheap, but a 15 is a good size barrel where you can get a decent finish, a decent color and finish on in a year, versus 3 or 4 for a big barrel, or, 3 or 4 if you're using a bad mow, because the bad mows pretty much are about the same time wise as a big barrel. Yeah, it definitely, good size barrel. 10, 15 is a good size barrel. 8 months to a year, and you get some good. It's not gonna be as good as a 4 or 6 year out of a 53. Nothing is going to replace time. Like I was talking about the esterification of that. It just in that, but time, but I think for me personally, I like a lot of oak. So I don't mind a 9 or a 12 year in oak. A lot of people, after they get to that age, they tend to think it's over oaked, and for some it might be. I like that oak. I like that char, and I like the bitter tannin char flavor that the wood gives it. But yeah, like the different yeast. Yeah, lager yeast are really cold temperature yeast that are good for cold temps. Yeah. So yeah, for like a grain, if you want to do a lower temp and not use EC1118, the Lalvin, that lager yeast is good for sure. Good point, Clint. Yeah, I've got these little oil filled heaters. I got one next to me. But these little jobbies ain't bad. Just little oil filled heaters. You know, set it right in between 3 or 4 40-gallon barrels right in the middle of them. Just surround it with them, and you can kind of move the barrels out or adjust the temperature on them. They work just fine, and it helps keep the room warm as well. Probably not the most efficient thing. I mean, but I've seen a lot of horror stories with fish tanks with lots of grain stuck to them that scorched a perfectly good ferment and really made it taste bad and got all that stuff stuck to it and burnt to the fish tank heater. And I don't want to fool with all that. I've got old fish tank heaters in here, man. I used to be into fish, and I like this because it helps keep the room warm too, and that's nice. If it's outside, though, that's a different story. They do make the barrel bands. I will say most of them are designed for metal barrels, so you have to really watch the temperature because they can keep everything in there warm, or they can make everything in there hot as hell. I mean, I don't think you'd want to distill with one, but it can get up to distillation temperatures. I saw some that go up to 237 degrees Fahrenheit, so you could definitely distill with one. It wouldn't be very efficient. It would take forever and a day to heat up, but they will melt a barrel if you turn them up too high. So barrel bands are great. They're 40-80 bucks on Amazon. Just strap them to your barrel and just slowly dial them up until they get to the right temperature. But monitor them, make sure they're not making your plastic soft. A wine with bread yeast, that's fine. I mean, it's I think a lot of yeast is, I don't know, bread yeast is fine, but for a finer wine, you might get a lot of flocculence, and more of your wines tend to like a lower temperature. Bread yeast tend to like a little warmer temperature. So wine is everything about time. And you want a slow fermentation. You want it to take forever. You want it to do it slow. So 70 degrees, 72 degrees, slow 1 or 2 month fermentation primary, and then rack it off to a secondary for 6, 8, 12 months. You know, that's wine, at low temps. But if you're using bread wheat yeast, yeah, I mean, it's perfectly fine with that. It's going to be a little bit different flavor, and that's also subjective. Flavors in the hands of the drinker. So some people like it, some people won't. But there's nothing wrong with it at all. But you're going to have to increase your temps a little bit for the bread yeast. Yeah, yeah, the heat mats. Those are a lot of done for germination of seeds for farmers and stuff, and that way in the, like right now, if you don't have a greenhouse, a lot of people start their plants inside, and a little heat mat to start your little seedlings on, your tomatoes and peppers and stuff. They make these little mats you can put underneath your little trays, and they'll keep it perfectly warm, and you can strap that to it too. I've seen people use, waterbed heaters, the waterbed mattress things wrap around, and yeah, There's a lot of different ways to do it. Sounds aptly. I've got some apple brandy I got it around. Was it good? Garlic is, I bet it is hard to get to taste that. Now, one thing you can do is you can leave them out in the sun. And the sun, with no water in it at all on a hot, hot sunny day, and it'll surprisingly get a lot of that flavor out. But a lot of people say Clorox, man, it's so hard to get Clorox out of something. I'd use Star Sand or something like that, but I used it ages ago, and it was just so hard to clear out, and it tastes like Clorox and bleachy, and yeah, it's hard to clean them out. But yeah, just gotta watch what you get, and again, if you get pickle barrels, just make pickle shots. Olive barrels. Seen somebody got recently pepperoni barrels, and I didn't know pepperoni came in barrels, but that's awesome. I love my son tastes like pepperoni, man. That'd be killer, wouldn't it? Now I doubt it'd be as good as Justin Meredith's taco shine, or his brisket shine, but it'd be pretty interesting. Absolutely, absolutely, good man. Yeah, especially Dunder too, because that can get very acidic. So you definitely awesome, awesome. Yeah, that Ruby Flux works good with that silver solder or most of your solders. I'll get her done. That's awesome. Yeah, the blue 15 ounce. Now I was talking about the wood barrels, the charred wood barrels that are $100, not the plastic ones. Yeah, the ones that you age in. Yeah, there's a lady that gets them. They're once used up there, and they're used for whiskey. But yeah, about $100 a pop. But yeah, they're wooden, they're white oak barrels, charred. Sweet tobacco. I used to be a smoker, but yeah, I like it. I like it. I like it charred oak. Most of your yeast are going to be fine for what you want. You don't want to go above a gravity of 1080, 1090. Some people push that to 1.1 with some rums and stuff, but most all of our yeast are good up to that point, except maybe a bread yeast. Bread yeast go 12 to 14%. Most of the wine yeast and your champagne yeast and your daty are good to about 18, 16 to 20, basically. Anything above that is basically like a turbo yeast or something like that. But most of your champagne wine yeast are good to, 12 to 20. A lot of your wines, like your Premier Blanc, your Premier Rouge, I think those are 12, 14, 16 range. The EC 1118 is a champagne yeast. It's good to 18 to 20. Daty, 16 to 18. So most of those will get you, you really don't want to get that much in your, anyway, let's pull up our little handy dandy picture of our hydrometer here. Let me click on all files. So I get all files. I don't know why it goes to that. And Not from the beginning, but usually I can pick that hydrometer out pretty quickly. But not tonight. Damn it, man. Nope, I'm in screenshots. No wonder. I was like, damn it, man. Why am I not able to see this? I just moved these and it should be right there. And this new PC, I'm gonna have to format and reinstall everything on it. It's slower mode. Here we go. So as we look on here, you get up to a gravity of 1.1. Let me see here. 1.1, right at the edge of the red. And that is about a 12.5%. Yeah, it's about a 12.5%. So, you're not going to get into the ranges where you're going to really need a yeast that's going to be real high proof tolerant. So most of the yeast that you're going to use are going to be perfectly tolerant, in the range that you're going to be using them. So yeah, I got a little bit of one going. I need to improve on it though. Shots. 10 o'clock shots. Yeah, every half hour or so we'll take a little shot. I was hoping to put this on some staves, and I'm afraid I'm going to drink it before I do. I'm going to have to start drinking something else. It's good stuff. Old Joe and Derek made some good stuff, man. They start drinking Wes's. It's 140 proof, though. That shit's high octane. Yeah, come on. You don't like garlic shine, man? Everybody likes garlic shine, except vampires. It does after 3 years. I'd let it sit out in the sun empty and just keep it focused, throw it on the sun. Don't just lay it out. Make sure that sun is beaming right inside of it, and like aim it like a damn solar panel. Keep that sun on it, man, and it should sun bleach it. Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, thanks for reminding me, brother. A bit late, but that's good. What's going on, Joshua? Good to see you. Not much, man. Just sitting around chillaxing, drinking a few shots and talking, distilling, and fermenting. It didn't do it. Man, I'll never buy mint scarlet barrel. Pepperoni Pachuga. Yeah, there you go. Hello, Miss Tammy. I didn't see you Wednesday. I was worried about you. Hope you're having a good evening. Yeah, man. We like that brisket shine. I tell you, Justin sent me a bottle of that taco shine. And that is something else, man. That would make the best Bloody Mary ever. I mean, it's great as it is alone. I'd drink the hell out of it. It's spicy. It tastes just like a taco. It's like a taco spice. And I mean, you even taste the shell in it. It's nice. But yeah, it definitely make a hell of a Bloody Mary, and it's high proof, so it definitely make a good Bloody Mary mix. I put it back up there, Richard. I'm sorry. Yeah, you got to see it. You got to see it up on the screen here, and I did find the digital container. I did get into halfway hacking their program, and I found out there's some other add-ons I can do it. Pretty technical. So I'm going to try to reach out to them again I'm going to try to see if I can't size it kind of like I do, my picture here, and just increase and decrease it and make it a digital container just like my cam. Just put chat and it is a digital container of its own over there. So why can't I size that just like a guest, So hopefully I can talk them into. I got them at least to put up on the screen because after every podcast I was like, I podcast multi platforms and everybody can't see everybody's comments. So is there a way that we can put those up on the screen? And then they came out with that, and I said, well, it's awful small. So they came out with 3 different sizes, and of course it's not big enough. And I'm sure they're saying this son bitch is just never happy. There's nothing we can do to make him happy. But yeah, just make it half. Take up half the screen would be fine, and transparent to where you can see the logo behind it would be great. So we'll get it. Little at a time. So we got them this far though. That's good. Because it's crazy that even the people that are looking on YouTube that are on different channels that we stream to on YouTube can't see each other. So you're only basically seeing it from where it's streamed from. And I will say for the groups that I share it to, I've noticed in the past that a lot of people are making comments in that. Now, if you're scrolling down your group page and you see my podcast, you can comment it, but that's commenting to it in the group. So only people in that group can see it, right? And that little number you see in the top left, that's how many people that are viewing it in that group. And that's going to be limited to, so if it's a smaller group, it may say 1, 3, 5, 6, you never know. And that's how many people in that group are watching it. And the only people that are going to see those comments are the people that in the group. You have to actually physically click on the picture and open it up in a new page or in a new, it'll open up a new page and a new tab if you want it to. And then once you comment in there, we'll be able to see it here. So if you comment and you don't see it on the screen here, so you need to jump in and make sure that you're not just viewing it within the group. You need to click on it and open it up, and then we'll be able to see your comments. So if you don't see them up here on the screen as you type them, then you're just commenting basically inside that group, and the only people in that group can see it, and the ones that are watching in that group. A lot of times people say, well, he's only got 4 people watched him. That's in that group that I've shared it to, that you're watching it from. So I assure you, we got quite a bit more than that watching it. We get about anywhere from 600, 700 to 1,100, varies. I know the last show where I didn't get to share it with a lot of different groups and stuff, or the viewership was way down because of the result of that. So come on, Facebook, do better. But yeah, we between just on Facebook, we get about 600, 700 to 1100, 1,200, maybe sometimes as high as 15. And then on YouTube, it's God knows how many, hundreds and hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, probably sometimes. Just never know. I don't know. But I know it was going through Fieldbillies, and he has like 500,000 people, that watch his stuff. So you never know. Yeah. Most of your commercial, you'd be surprised. Most of your commercial distilleries making whiskey, they get about a 1060 gravity, which is 10%, 8 to 10%. Run it 3 to 5 days. They'll mash in. They'll be done in 3 to 5 days. They're ready to run. It's all about time and money. And on the chart, you can see here on the chart, in that amount of time, you'll have, let's see, in a 1060, you'll have about 8%. And that's about where they get, about 8%. So once they get there, that's it, run it. And they do it at least a couple times a week. Well, they'll do it run every day, but they'll space out their ferments, right? They'll have a dozen ferments going, and there's at least one or two done every day. So if it takes 4 days and you got a dozen, you'll have 3 ready every day, and you just keep spacing them out like that, and that's the way they do it. And it's time is money. And that's also one of the reasons they go into a barrel at a little higher proof than what normal people would. Most people would, if you're doing a craft, they go in a little lower proof and they can pour more flavor out of that barrel. But when you got millions of barrels and you got rick houses and you're putting out thousands a day, you go in a little higher proof because it pays to. Argentine orange and oats, man, that's good. I haven't done Argentine orange yet. That's one of that and the Argentine orange, and what's the Oaxacan green? I want to run that too. Yeah, I like old fashions. I'm pretty much a whiskey neat kind of guy, man. I like shots and straight. Never did like beer a lot, Boilermakers. Love whiskey straight. But yeah, I don't mind an old fashioned. I used to drink, you know, bourbon and Coke when I was doing mixed drinks, and I had to keep my head about me. You got here late on Wednesday. I'm sorry to miss you. I've been doing fine. Could be better, but I'm still vertical, so that's good. Yeah, that's right. One side for me, one side for the comments, and that'd be awesome. We're gonna get it done. We'll get it done one way or the other. If I have to upload I've got OBS, but if I have to run this in OBS and figure out a way to make a digital container for that, I'll do it. I could probably put a camera on this and put the camera up as a person. I never actually thought about that until now, but I could put a second camera on that chat and just put it as if it were stream it as if it was another guest in here. And maybe we'll try that sometime. Hell, that's not a bad idea. I can just stream it as if it was a second person in here. What type and how big is it? Is it the football type like this? We call this the Vever football. I need to get a good picture. Let me get a good picture of a Vever 3-pot. Yeah, I need to get a good picture of this so I can point out the inefficiencies. Yeah, that'd be a good one. Just 1 second. I'll have her up there. I want to get the whole kit too. That way I can point out the gaskets and stuff I'm talking about. But hell, I guess I can just go directly to this. I don't think Vever would mind. Let me just share the screen. All right, so you don't know, this is a Vever 3-pot still. Hopefully you can see my little mouse moving around here, but you can see where it's got the slobber box, also known as a thumper. If the little copper downcomer that you see over here on the lower right next to the thermometer, this little piece of copper in here needs to go in here right underneath this on the thumper. It'll go all the way down. So it's always your downcomers on your boiler side. So anyway, the gaskets that go between the brass here fittings and the tops right there, and right there, those break a lot. Now the seals around it, the silicone gaskets around it are fine, but those are the ones that tend to get over tightened and break a lot. This copper needs to be a larger diameter coming out. This is probably 1/2 inch, 3/8 or 1/2 inch coming out of these. So it definitely could be a little bigger. That would be nice. But yeah, this is your typical Vever 3-pot still. Now the flexible stainless lines are okay, and I like the way they've got them, high up, and it prevents, backflow. But the slobber box or thumper, depending on how you run it, you can put your copper mesh inside here, like we were talking about, and that'll help remove some of your sulfides. But yeah, you can see how this condenser is sitting right on top of the steel. Not good. But you can see if you just take where this is and rotate that and make it a little larger circle to where you could fit in a frozen drink thing, drink bottle in the middle of that copper coil worm there, it would help out a lot in cooling it down and make it a little bit more efficient. But yeah, that's the. Oh, I didn't actually do the. Did I not share it? Was it not sharing? Okay, here it is. If y'all can't see what I was talking about, here's a little downcomer on the bottom right I was talking about, and it goes right here inside this little slobber box. So without it, it's a slobber box. With it, it's a thumper, and you can just put your copper mesh in here. But this line right here at the base of this, where it comes out, right here at the base of these stainless flex pipes, that's the gaskets that break a lot and get broken. They may have improved on them. They may have better ones now, but in the past, those always broke pretty easily. Compression fittings, okay, but over a while, they start to tend to leak as well. But you can see in the middle here, in the middle of this boiler, there's kind of a circle cut there. I would say that's probably a pretty easy way of adding a ferrule or a bulkhead to that. I'm not sure if that would be a 2 or a 2.5 inch diameter, but you could definitely cut that out and weld you a ferrule to it and go out of this boiler into a larger spool and really be very beneficial. So, yeah. And let me stop that share and hide my face. There we go. Yeah, I like how we can share like that. A little better. At least you can see my mouse pointer, hopefully, and what I was pointing at. But yeah, you can ferment them in as well. But what kind wheat seeds? Was it the football or was it the 3-pot that you're looking at wheat seeds, and how many gallons? And we'll tell you if that's a good deal or not. If you get the 3-pot, I mean, there's nothing wrong with them, but it's going to require some work, to get them to function. If you're handy, it's not a big deal. If you're not, then you might have to take it. Vever alcohol still 3-gallon. I would go bigger. I would definitely go bigger. That's not a good deal. I wouldn't do it. Yeah, let me check something out for you here, brother. Just a minute. Let's see. Right now, you can get an 8-gallon for $99 out of at Vever. So for just 20 some more bucks, you can quadruple or triple your production almost. And really, once you get started, once you get going, that 8, that's where you want to start. 8 to 10, 12, 13. A lot of people start between the 8 and 13 range. That's a good starter. But yeah, with the 3-pot, you're gonna be looking at spending some time. So this football steel, let's see. Let me go to Vever and see what the football steels are. Let's see. A lot of times they'll show all their different setups down here. 18.5, $259. It's a little bit cheaper, I think, on Amazon or eBay. Let's see. Yeah, because they've got the 3-gallon for 80, 84. So for just $15 more, for you, $25, you could get the the 8. I'm looking for the 13. Yeah, that's 118. But let me go to eBay and check for you, brother. Let's see what we got there. It's a pretty good place to get them too. They usually discount them on there. And you can usually pick up the football steels for a little cheaper. I know they have them on sale like Black Friday and stuff. They have gone up though, so I've been noticing on eBay and places. Yeah, they've gone up a little bit in price. But like on Black Friday and certain holidays, they'll put these on sale. So if you follow Viver and you show interest and you save and you look at some of these steels, they'll send you. Um, and actually, you can get it from Viver cheaper than a lot of this is on eBay right now. So it might be best to go direct through them. But probably be best to wait for a holiday or something like that to get the football. But I know they were $150 for 18 and a half on Black Friday a couple of years ago. But everything's going up a little bit in price. Yeah, but I would go to Bever and look at that 8 and 13 for $100. That's not a bad deal. $99, and I think the 13 is not too much more. Let's see. Well, here's the 9.6, which is bigger than the 8, and it's 83, so it's a little cheaper. But that doesn't have the thumper. That's just the 2-pot, which really you don't need that thumper because most people take them off and don't use them anyway. Let's see. That's a 9. Let's see. I'm looking for the 13 2-pot or 3-pot. Yeah, $118 for the 13.2 gallon. I know it's considerably more. It's like $50 more, but it's going to be something that you're going to get quite a bit more product out of, and it's going to make it worth your time. It's the 13.2 gallon, 50 liter. It's the same kit you're looking at, but it's 118 from Vever, and that's free shipping. So, and you can get the single for $9 less. So you're basically for $9, you're paying for that little thumper that you're not going to use much, which isn't too bad of a price. It's if you want to use it for infusing and stuff, it's okay. But yeah, it's going to be a little better deal for you because you'll be like everybody else. Trust me, and everybody. I mean, I've never heard anybody say, "I wish I'd have bought a smaller steel," unless they start out with like a 80 gallon or something. But everybody that starts from the 5 to 10 range, every one of them say, "I wish I'd have started with a bigger steel, man, because here I am. I'm wanting that 20 or 30, and I'd love to have that 18 and a half football. And, I wish I'd just bought it from the very beginning." So, but yeah, I think through Vever, you could probably get a little better. Yeah, I think I would definitely go through Vever and get the 9 or the 8. I'm sorry, the 8 gallon ones for just 20 some bucks more. Yeah, the 3 gallon is small, and it's really hard to make cuts. And we're talking about making cuts between your heads, your hearts, and your tails, and your foreshots easy, but your heads, hearts, and tails, it's a lot tougher to make cuts on the smaller ones. But a keg steel is another good alternative. People. Let me show you some pictures of a keg steel. You can use the milk can steel. This is a stainless milk can type steel. You can get the old stainless milk cans and convert those into a steel, or you can. Shit, I definitely got to fix this thing. Uh, you can get you a keg. Well, where's the picture of my beer keg still? I don't even see it. Anyway, you know what a beer keg looks like. I don't need to show you. But a keg steel, right? You can make them out of kegs, or you can get the football steel. I would recommend either the keg or the football. It's definitely going to be something that you're going to be happy with in the long run, and going to be modular, something easy to upgrade. So I'd save the money, and for about 200, 220, you can get the 18 and a half when it goes on sale. It has gone up. I don't know if that's because of the tariffs or any of that stuff. I don't want to get off on that tangent, but it has gone up, and I noticed it going up a little bit before that happened anyway. So, but you can still get it. Yeah, you can get the used ones pretty much. There's a lot of people that buy them, and they don't like it because they started out with one that's too small. So you still see a lot of 3 and 5s, because really it's hard to get in the hobby. And then once you do it, it's like, well, that was just too much work for such little alcohol. Fuck it. And I'm not doing this anymore. And a lot of people do that. And it's because they just started out a little bit too small. And it is a lot of work, because you put in the same amount of work basically, um, to do a 5 gallon run as you would a 25 gallon run. It's just with one, it might take a little bit longer to grind up the grain, and it might take a little bit longer to boil the water, but basically getting all your stuff out, getting it ready to mash in and do it all is where a lot of your time gets expended. So, it's just begins a waste of time. It's like cooking for one person. A lot of people's like, I'm just not going to cook for me. But if I was cooking for a family, yeah, of course, it makes sense economically. So I would definitely recommend going bigger, though. I've never seen anybody say, I wish I'd have gotten something smaller, unless they got something really big. But what's going on, Stokes? Good to see you. Good to have you with us. Got another brewer. Awesome. First time in. Well, great. Check out some of our prior episodes, and you kind of see what we're all about. We help beginners and intermediates and some advanced in distilling and learning how to make some wines and brandies and different distillates, and a little bit on beer. We got some beer makers and some brewers in the group. I've never been a real big beer fan myself. I was actually I like the dark beers from Europe more so than the blonde beers from America. Once I went over there and tasted some of those warm dark beers, had so much flavor. But I was always a Boilermaker kind of guy. But I drank a lot of beer with my buddies if I didn't want to get drunk and wanted to have something to throw at the road signs as we drove. I probably shouldn't talk about that like it's funny, but that was our entertainment when we were growing up. Buy the Miller ponies. That way we'd have more bottles to throw at the signs as we speeding down the highway. That's crazy. But yeah, glad you're with us, man. So you work on a commercial level or a hobbyist? Maybe we can have another brewer in the house. Because I tell you, once you learn how to make beer, you'll make excellent whiskey, because you've already learned the step fermentation. You've already known about the malts. You understand diastatic powers. So once you're a beer maker, you make an excellent whiskey distiller. It's just learning to distill, and that's pretty easy compared to the beer making. So you're 3/4 the way there. If you can make a decent beer. Basically, we do the same thing with grains, but without the hops. And we use corn. So we usually start at the higher end temperature wise and work our way down. Whereas in beer making, a lot of times they'll start low and work their way up. But we kind of eliminate the protein rests and stuff like that, because we're not as interested in clarity, and we don't care about the protein haze like you would, of course, in a beer. So we don't worry so much about that, but we do the certification risks and the rest anyway to help the fermentation and the breakdown of starches and everything. But you'll find we do it opposite. We start at the higher temperatures with the corn, high temp amylase, let it cool, cools down to 150, 55, and we'll add some malts and in the 40 to 55 range. And then once it gets down, further, we'll add we use high temp amylase a lot. We'll use a liquid glucose amylase a lot. Whereas, in the beer, you're more interested in allowing the malts to do and the diastatic power to do the debranching and breaking of the starches and making them simple. So we do it a little bit different. But yeah, if you can make good beer, you're definitely going to make some good whiskey. Do they still have it? Let me check Home Depot. I haven't checked. I know that they've sell some in Lowe's even. I was looking at a Vever post hole digger, man. It's $118, 52 cc, and had two different augers and extension bits with it for $118. I'm like, that's cheaper than I can rent one. So I might just end up buying a post hole digger because I got to put up about 100 feet of fence. But I noticed Lowe's sell their products too. So I do know Home Depot had those things for pretty cheap on a Black Friday a couple of years ago. They had those football steels that were $150 for those 18.5s, and I know they're going to be more now. Let's see what they got. Oh yeah. Yeah, 270. So yeah, they've raised their prices too. Yeah, it's up there. 277 for at 18.5. When I bought my 18.5, I got it for right at 190 some, right at 200. They were on a little bit of a sale, and then maybe a year or two later, they did that Black Friday sale at Home Depot, and they were cheap as dirt. And they will again. I'm sure they will again. So, but it's an excellent deal. And here's one. It's the same thing as Vever. It's just doesn't have the Vever name on it. It's called Sky Shallow, and it's a football steel from Home Depot, and it's $269. So I mean, it's the same thing. It just doesn't have notice Vever doesn't make a lot of these products. They just put their name on it. So this is another company that's bought it from the same builder in China and putting their Sky Shallow name on it and selling it for a little bit cheaper, $8 cheaper. I believe I'd just soon get to Bever and have a little bit of a name behind it. But yeah, they'll go on sale Black Friday. They'll probably have an Independence Day sale coming up. Maybe even a Father's Day sale, but Independence Day sale and Labor Day sales, they usually have some pretty good deals on those as well. Learning to make mead and sugar wash. Loving the sugar wash. Got just one, just freeze distilling. All right. Jacking it. All right. It did good. And the apple cinnamon sugar. Apple jacking is a very common way of freeze distilling. And strangely enough, to the federal government, that's the same as putting it in a pot, boiling it, running it through a condenser. So that's crazy. So yeah, that's insane that's considered illegal by the federal government to take a wine or a mead that's perfectly legal to make, set it outside, let it freeze, pull the ice out of it, and all of a sudden you've just committed a crime by pulling the ice out of it. That's so silly, man. They got to change this shit. That's just ridiculous. But yeah, we're here on Tuesday nights and Saturday nights, 8 Eastern time. So yeah, tune in. Bring your questions. Any questions you got? If you're looking to buy, a steel or getting your feet wet, you've definitely probably already have all the fermenters and all that good stuff you need. So yeah, we'll talk about foreshots, heads, hearts, tails, and how to. Yeah, that's the thing about the jacking is that you do concentrate your foreshots and heads in those, and they can definitely, that jacked wine and can definitely leave a pretty nasty hangover. But it's definitely, it's just fortifying wines and meads basically. But yeah, it's with the meads and the sugars, you don't have as much fours and heads as you do when you start adding grains and fruits. But yeah, it can make for some pretty nasty headaches, but it's interesting how easy it is to increase the proof like that. Yeah, we'll run from 8, sometimes usually 10, but a lot of times we'll run over 10:30, 11 o'clock. We'll sit and do a few shots and bullshit and drink and chat about what's going on and what everybody's got running, their successes and failures, and answer a lot of questions. And yeah, yeah, and I don't remember the names of. I was in France and Switzerland and Italy, and this is back in the late 70s, and wasn't real. Just wasn't a real big beer drinker even then. I was young, but I was still, at that point in time, I was making shine and drinking. So, um, but yeah, got over there and drank some dark beers, and it was strange over there. It was like vending machines. Like you see a Pepsi machine here, anybody that wanted to could go up and put their coins in and buy beer. It didn't matter if, and this is high proof or high alcohol beer. It's not your 3 to 6% stuff we get here. It was some stout stuff, and pun intended stout. But anybody could. You'd see kids over there drinking wine and beer and stuff. There was no drinking age. It was crazy, and it was just wow, culture shock, right? But so we went to bars and stuff, and was drinking some of these warm dark beers, and man, they were good. They had so much flavor compared to just a pale, white blonde beer, like a Mick Ultra or something. It's basically water compared to those. It was just night and day. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. It was really good. I definitely prefer those beers to just the watered down Mick Ultra or something. So you talking about the valves on it? Or are you talking about the clatch, the hasps, the top that clamp the top down? Those are called hasps. Latch, hasp. Let's see if. Well, you see a lot of lock. I guess this would be considered a spring loaded. Let's see, spring hasp. Yeah, they're a little different. Let me see. Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah, most of these are like a padlock hasp. It's a little different. Hmm. Yeah, I don't see them, Richard. I've sourced them before, and it would take a little time, but yeah, you can get them. You have to do some searching on Google, but you can find them. Right. Yeah, just weld them on the side. Yeah, yeah, we're here twice a week, man. Bring your questions and help. Maybe you'll have some answers for us as well, especially on the beer making side and talking about crystal malts. I'm sure you've worked a lot with the different types of malts, and you probably know two row real well. We used to use a lot of six row when we depended on diastatic power, but now that we've got the liquid high temp amylase, and we're less reliant on diastatic power, we can benefit more greatly from the flavor from a two row, which most beer makers prefer. So yeah, it's changing a little bit of how we do things. We're less dependent on diastatic power now, so less dependent on malts, but still like the malted flavor. But we don't have to necessarily use it in percentage to get the proper diastatic to get the good conversions we're looking for. So we can use the high temp alpha and the liquid gluco to perform the same as our malts used to. So yeah, I think we're driving up the damn beverage prices, man. That's what it is. You'd think I was making money off of them. I've been recommending. I probably sold thousands of those damn things, recommending them over the last 4 or 5 years since I've been podcasting and stuff. But if I didn't know, and use one and get the benefit from it, and I've had one now for 5 or 6 years. I've used this little one, 18 and a half, and shit, I love the thing. Alan Bishop and I talked about it ages ago. Hell, he bought one and started experimenting with it. And he's like, damn, this is a good little pot. And, even for a seasoned distiller with gold medals on the bottles, he recognizes it as a decent little starting pot or intermediate pot or advanced pot for running samples and stuff on it. I think he experimented a little bit with his and ran some samples on it. Now he's of course moved up, but I'd say he probably still has it in his basement and run it, from time to time, just experimenting on different. Because you don't want to do a 5,000 gallons or 1,000 gallon or 500 gallon mash experimenting, right? You'll run a recipe on a small scale, and then if it's good, you'll scale it up and do it on a bigger fermenter. So yeah, I know a lot of people that they're excellent little setup. But yeah, I've probably sold tens of thousands of those for them. I could do commercial for them, I guess. Maybe we need to give them a little call. I guess if I was on TikTok or something, they may probably see me and recognize me, but they probably don't. I'm not viral famous. Not interested. Yep. Yeah, and well, a lot of the other things aren't necessarily podcasts. They're just videos that people put out there. So they're instructional videos, and they'll a lot of times do different topics. If it's awesome, if they do topics, that way you can just find the topic that you want an answer to and watch that video and get your answers, right? And if that's the way they're doing it, that'd be really great. And for those that are thinking about it, do it that way. But for the most part, a lot of times, every video they do is beginning to end, and it's like an 8 hour video. And there's a series of 12 of them, and everything's very long-winded, even more so than me, and run into the ground, and you just have to watch a week's worth of videos and stuff to get the answer. So it's really tough. And then on the other hand, other end of the spectrum, you've got Facebook and a few groups, and some of the groups out there are great. They got some very knowledgeable people, and you can ask your questions in there and get them answered. Problem is, a lot of times in those groups, you'll get beginners answering questions, and I'm not going to knock a beginner. I know they're trying to help, but a lot of times, and I know, and I'm not going to say they're wrong about things. They've just been misinformed. So a lot of times they don't necessarily get their information from the best sources. They'll look up and see something and do a Google search, and it immediately takes them to Reddit, and they read it on Reddit, and Reddit is full of 13, 16-year-olds answering, doing stuff that have no clue what the hell they're talking about and stuff. And there's so much junk on there, and other places and in other groups. You get a lot of people answering stuff that's never distilled the first drip in their life. They're just a bunch of wannabes, and it's tough. And if they are, that's fine. If you're giving out correct answers and you're sourcing your information from proper sources and you're giving answers that are great, I'm all for that. Fine. I don't care if you're a master distiller or not, as long as you're giving out the proper answers. I don't care. I don't care if you've ever ran a drop. As long as you're giving out good answers, that's great. But more often than not, they're not, and so it's like the little lie. You tell somebody something, and by the time it gets 12 people down the line, it's totally different. And it's the same thing with information in distilling and moonshining in particular. As it goes down the line, everything changes. And I've had people, I give them specific instructions, temperature, times, pHs, everything. And you got to do everything the exact same way I'm talking here. And if you do it, you should be fairly successful. You'll get a decent result. And they do it and they come back, well, it didn't turn out quite the way I'd expected. I'm like, well, what's wrong? Well, it just didn't turn out right. And I'm like, well, let's figure out where we went wrong. Did you measure the temperature? Well, no, now I didn't measure the temperature. Well, did you use this yeast? No, I didn't use that yeast. I used this yeast instead. And then I'm like, well, did you use the oyster shells? No, I didn't get the oyster shells. I really wasn't concerned about pH. And you start asking all these questions, and then you find out they didn't listen to a damn word you said. It's like, well, maybe if you listened to what I said and followed it to a T, you'd have had more success. But, well, I did what you said. No, you didn't. It's fun. But, yeah, No, we just basically just answer questions. You can go back to the very basics. There's a few, I should have titled them differently. For specific ones, we get a little bit more scientific than others. And sometimes we'll go from the beginning to end. And if we get a few beginners in here, it's pretty easy to talk about from beginning to end what you need to do. It's usually a 5 or 10 minute speech on how to steep, what temperature to hold it at the temperature, to keep water to the side boiling, to maintain the temperature, and add a little bit of the time to maintain the temperature for, the 90 minutes. And it's easy to do, and I do it repetitiously through many, many, many times. So, so if you watch some of our past episodes, you'll get a pretty good idea, and you'll see a lot of repetition. Everybody has the same questions when they get started. Most of them will have different questions than you, because you've pretty much mastered the fermentation process. You've mastered the grains. You know how to, maybe not gelatinizing corn. That's going to be a little bit new for you, gelatinizing the corn and getting it prepped and ready for, breaking down the starches. And so it's going to be something new for you. But the rest of it, once you gelatinize that corn and you add your high temp amylase and you're cooling it off and you're getting to the point where you add the malt, that's when you'll have everything pretty much understood to that point on, because, that's basically what you're doing. You mostly, I guess, in beer making, you step mash up in corn liquor and multigrain. That are using corn, we'll start at high temperatures and work our way down for obvious reasons. You don't want to work from low up, because we get above the 155, 60 degree threshold, which will denature most enzymes, or natural endogenic enzymes. So we're starting at the high temp, working backwards, so we don't do that. So we cook our corn at 190 degrees Fahrenheit for 90 minutes to gelatinize it. Then we'll add the high temp amylase at about liquid high temp amylase at about 185. and let that start breaking, liquefying, and breaking down those starches, and then hydrolyzing. And then we'll let it cool down to the point where we would either add a malt for extra diastatic, or mostly for flavor, now that we don't rely on that for a diastatic. Um, so we would add that at that temperature. We'll, depend that on some, the beta glucanase, of course, and to help break down some of the glucans that are in grains, if we do a lot of grains or a high percentage of grains. But yeah, any questions you got, we'll be able to help you out for sure. But it's a lot of fun, and it's, of course, you'll be able to make the whiskey and wine. We do a lot of wine making. I'm more of a wine maker than a beer maker, so maybe we can rely on you to help us with some of the beer questions, and then we can help out also with wines if you're not familiar with making wines and not gotten into the brandies and stuff yet. Once you do, it's a big rabbit hole as well. It's a different love. So. But if you do a lot of meads and stuff, I'm sure you'll probably start getting into some different wines and peach brandies and other brandies as well. It's a lot of fun. It's a great hobby. Stokes Legacy Brewing. Now, are you a commercial outfit or just a home? Are you on YouTube? Let's check you out here. Stokes Legacy. Oh, got some videos out. I see some Fleischmann's bread yeast. I used that for ages. I used Fleischmann's for probably 30 some years with my grains. It's awesome. Golden pour. Awesome. Well, great to have you with us, brother. Good to have you with us. So yeah, we'll have you see a little apple cinnamon going on there. Yeah, well, we'll have you adding some wines and whiskeys to that channel before long, man. Yeah, I got you. Actually, you got a new subscriber just now. So everybody go check out Stokes Legacy on YouTube and hit that bell and check him out. It's awesome to help each other out. And yeah, I'll check out some of your videos later. But yeah, it's good to have a brewer amongst us and a fellow experimenter. Yeah, so if you're a beginner, man, we'll definitely, we can help you out from beginning to end, man. We'll get you rolling. And we can recommend a lot of different stills. I do push the that little Vever football still for, it's a good economical still for 18.5 gallons for $250 or about. It'll go on sale a little cheaper, but on average, I guess about $250, $60 now. That or a keg still for somebody on a budget is a great setup. But for somebody with, a little, easier to budget, a little deeper wallet, copper steels, and there's some other alternatives and some heavier duty, more heavy duty stainless type setups and copper setups that may suit you better. But really, for the money getting started, it's hard to beat, that little football steel, because you can add so much to it, and it's so modular. Makes a good little boiler. Dragon's Blood wine. That sounds good. Well, one thing I will say is making brandy's expensive. Fruit's expensive. So I recommend anybody young out there, if you're in your 40s or younger, if you got land, plant trees. If you got family with land, plant trees. Just go over and you don't even have to ask them. They won't even know if it's acres and they got woods. Just start planting some trees and plant some blackberry bushes along the fence lines, and blueberry bushes and raspberries and peach trees and apple trees, and make sure that you plant ones that pollinate well with each other. Study it and learn about cross-pollination and what you need to pollinate with each other. But having that free fruit, man, is so awesome. in the future, to just being able to make your own wine without having to spend a lot of money, because it's expensive if you have to pay 99 cents a pound if you're lucky for apples, you know, and peaches and other fruits. So that, or get friends with somebody that has some property with a bunch on it. Uh, yeah, I mean, I've got blackberries, and that's awesome. Persimmons, blueberries, yeah. But I've got blackberries on my property back in Eastern Kentucky, but that's like 2.5 hour drive one way, to go. And it's 5 hour drives round trip. So after gas and everything, those end up being some expensive ass blackberries, right? So if it was in my backyard, it wouldn't be so bad. I just walk out there and drive the 4-wheeler up the old road, and it's on each side of the road, man. It's blackberries almost the whole damn way, man. There's all kinds of them. They've been growing there for decades. It's wild. They're good. And they'll tear you up if you go off the beaten path a little bit. You'll get recognized real quick because they're not briarless. I guess the gas company uses that road more than anybody. You go up and check the gas wells. Yeah. Yeah, those are good. Yeah, that's nice. I've been reading a little bit about some of these. I wasn't aware of it. So check your local laws and stuff before you start planting. I was looking at this cherry tree from China, and maybe Japan or China, one of those two, but it was producing big, huge cherries within a year or two, and it's a hybrid tree, and they grow great, and they're really good fruit. And I was like, wow, let's get some of those and plant. That'd be quick, a couple of years I could be having me some big old plump cherries, and I was going to order some not available in your state. And I'm like, what? So I started reading about it, and it's like, they won't sell it to certain states and areas, because they don't want to hurt somebody's crops by creating a disease, and spreading. And it's like, wow, I never realized it. So before you start planting all these plants, make sure it's legal, and there might be certain varieties that work better in your climate. So it's always good to do a little research before you plant. But either way, it's definitely want to plant some fruit and fruit trees, and buy a couple and make sure that they cross pollinate, right? So get maybe 2 varieties, or get 4 and ones that cross pollinate. That way you get an insured growth, and they can plant them all near each other, and the bees can go from one to the next and pollinate them. And because I planted a apple tree years ago, and just one, and there was none around it to pollinate with, and it doesn't do anything. And because nobody has a pollinator that around that will help pollinate it. So I guess I have to plant another apple tree. And I'd recommend, I started mine from seed, but you can save yourself 5 years if you just get one that's 3 foot tall, and buy it that way. That'll save you about 5 years. They don't get that big that quick. It takes a few years just for them to get, our height, and pruning. Make sure you learn to prune them, especially when they're younger. All right. Well, it's getting late, and I think we'll have us a shot and call it a night. It was a good Saturday night with y'all. Got some new viewers in tonight. A few new viewers. That's always good to see. Got a brewer with us. Looks like he's doing some good things over there. Got some videos up. Be interesting to watch. Everybody go check him out. And so, Willis, yes, by tree, not a seed. Yeah, I started my apple by seed, man, and that was like 7 years ago, and it's about 10 foot now, and it's not producing because I don't have anything to cross pollinate. But it took forever to get this big, and yeah, you can buy one about your height, and $20, save yourself 5 years of waiting and looking. moment around it. Yeah, let me time that for you. It was about let's see. Yeah, I'm thinking it was probably around 9:20ish, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been 8 something. Let me hear. Let me look at 8. Yeah, around 8:40. If you scroll back to 8:40 on YouTube, it's Vinegar Review Channel. I want to go there too. Let's see what they had to say about me. They may have trashed me. They may say that old man, he don't know shit about vinegar. Let's see. So what was it again? Vinegar Review Channel. Well, it looks like they do vinegar reviews. Well, I'm not finding their page. Vinegar Review Channel. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Excuse me. No, I'm not seeing anything from. It might have been. They were just acting, posing. It could have been some bullshit because they were like trying to act like it was some official channel, back to station channel volume. Let's see what they were saying here. Yeah, that might have been when they first spoke. Doing a poll for my channel. What's your favorite brand of vinegar? So Vinegar Review Channel. I guess they're just kind of trying to poach some viewers. But they were respectful. They didn't say anything bad. They said they'd already been here once before and reviewed this, which might have been some bullshit. We already did this guy, testing new one. So they probably already trolled my channel once before. I don't remember them though. But they're just trying to poach some viewers. So we'll check them out. Yeah, I like promoting anybody that's real or legitimate because we definitely can help each other out. But yeah, I'm not seeing their channel. I do see lots of vinegar reviews on YouTube, but I don't see anybody coming from their channel, and I don't see their channel referred to as the name implies. So yeah, I'm just not seeing anything. Let's see. Here's somebody young. No. No, not seeing much. Don't see anything from them, man. If you do, let me know if they're legit. You know, if they're legit and good, we'll definitely give them a shout out. Oh my God, you've been trolled, man. I know. You should probably consult with an attorney and go to a safe place. Talk to an attorney. Oh, that's funny. That's awesome. You know, and that's something I talk about often in here too is why doesn't, you know, I know that the problem is probably a lot of people that sell fruit and have vineyards and orchards would probably be like, why are you planting all these damn fruit trees out in the national forest? You're trying to run me out of business and I'll pay taxes and everything else, But why don't they, in the national forest, why don't they plant more fruit trees just for the animals, more apple trees, peach trees? I know they don't have to maintain them. They don't have to prune them. And maybe it's worried about disease spread and not proper maintenance, and it might create disease and spread disease. I'm sure there's a legitimate reason I just don't know about, but it'd be awful nice, in some of the parks, if you could plant some fruit trees and some of the hungry, could go, if they're hungry, they could go pick up some apples and eat. What would be the harm in that other than getting stung by yellow jackets competing for the damn apples, But yeah, it'd be nice if they would plant more fruit trees in our national forests in places where it's indigenous for them to have naturally grown in the past, So Cave Daddy's now Johnny Appleseed, right? Y'all remember the story of Johnny Appleseed? Yeah, we need more of that, man. We need more, indigenous fruits, like, muscadine grapes. Plant the hell out of those and propagate those. Autumn olives, and I guess those spread pretty well on their own. But yeah. Well, I'm glad. Yeah, I like, some of my wines have turned to vinegars, made good cooking wines. I've had some red wines that turned to vinegar, and people are like, oh, throw it out. I'm like, hell no, I cook with it. I pour that in on a good fish or a good steak and add some good flavor to it, man. Make some sauces with it. It's good stuff. Why would I want to do that? Pine rats. So you plant a lot of pine trees, and that's awesome. That's good. And no, I'm not, Clint, I'm not having a stroke. That's me bouncing my foot. Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, it's after 11. I'm glad everybody tuned in. Had a great Saturday with everybody. Good to see y'all. Spring-loaded toggle latch catch clamp clips. RANMB toggle latches is another good lane. Thank you, Frank, for pointing those out. Double spring locking latch hasps is the spring loaded type. Those are probably the best kind, but the kind with just the wire, like we get on the Vebbles, is RANNB toggle latches. So those are considered more of a latch than the spring ones are more of a hasp. That's cool. Good to know. But yeah, if you Google this, and I appreciate that, Frank. And again, happy birthday, brother. But Google double spring locking latch hasp. Those are probably the best kind, and they're adjustable. So you're going to be able to adjust them if you don't get them welded in the perfect spot. The ones that we see on these Vever are that were done with just the wire and not the springs. That were, the wire is is called a RANNB toggle latch. So you can check those out, Richard, and I will too. Because on my 80, I'm thinking about putting a copper cap on that, and I'm brainstorming different ways of attaching it. And I pasted in the past, and I don't want to go with the top of it's like 16 inches. So it's that's an expensive ferrule, right? If you wanted to buy a ferrule for that, that's high dollars. That's hundreds. So I'm thinking about hammering out something copper for it and using these spring-loaded latches, locking latch hasps, and that's probably exactly what I'm going to use to weld those onto it. Appreciate it, Frank. Yeah, there are, and RANNB. That may be the original inventor of it, or the name of the actual type. So that's good to know. Yeah, good to see you, Rock. Hey, we're here twice a week, Tuesdays and Saturdays. So everybody tune in, check us out. Got a lot of lurkers, and it's good to see some of them every once in a while pop up there and make a comment. But that just tells me they're learning everything they need to without asking questions. A lot of times people want to remain anonymous and watching it. We understand, and that's perfectly fine with us. We got thousands of people that watch that don't comment, and that's good. Glad that people are watching us and enjoying the content. If you got any comments or recommendations, just feel free to comment. And again, and YouTube and Facebook, you can create a fictitious account if you want to ask questions and still remain anonymous. You can do so in our DIY Shine and Steel Building page in Facebook. Now you can create nicknames and not use your real name if you want to remain anonymous. I think the admins can see your name, but the other members can't. So if you're worried, you can always do that as well and ask your questions there as well. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of the stuff they do, like the glyphosate and stuff that they use in wheat farming, just to make it so they can harvest all the wheat at the same time, regardless of whether it's ready or not. They just make it all ready by spraying it down with glyphosates, and that could end up in the food and hurting us. They're now changing a lot of the foods and stuff. There's a lot of foods that we have that are banned in other countries, right? So, I don't know. Maybe we should have. Kennedy's looking into a lot of it. Maybe we should get rid of a lot of that stuff. But I don't know, man. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for tuning in. Again, for the newcomers, we're on here Tuesdays and Saturdays, 8 Eastern, same time, same channel. You found us. Hit that bell. Facebook, hit that like, subscribe button. YouTube will send out a notification. So you'll get a little ding on your phone or whatever when we go live, and you can check us out. If it becomes a headache, don't quit us. Just turn that notification off. But try to remember to find us on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And bring your questions. Come and bring you a jar or a legal bottle. We don't care. We'll sit and drink a few shots and chat and have a good time and learn a little bit more about making wine, whiskey, and beer. But until Tuesday, I hope everybody down in Louisiana had a great festival this weekend. Heard it got a little windy last night. Hope everything went well today and tonight. Everybody's partying down there. To those, we'll have to do a little horty-hort. For those down there partying right now, some of which are probably watching us. Richard Landry, get up with me, man. We'll get you on the show sometime and talk about your brothers down there in the Louisiana Cajun Brothers distillery you got going. So get up with me, brother. We'll talk to everybody later. Until Tuesday, peace out. Shine on. Love y'all.